Anchor TV. A lot has already happened here tonight. We're 23 minutes past the poll closings at 8 and about 30 minutes from a bunch of closings here in Rhode Island, and we're going to try to keep you as up to date as possible. I hope you enjoy anime. If you can just stick with us here, we're going to try to fix some of these technical difficulties. I don't know if you can hear me or not. So Nick, what do you think are the major issues going into tonight's elections?
Well, Cam, of course, the major issue we talked about earlier on in the broadcast is jobs. Jobs is paramount above everything right now. If you look at jobs as the overriding issue here, it's what's been the dominant topic of discussion in all the debates, whether it be the gubernatorial debates, whether it's been the congressional debates. You know, we're not really hearing a lot about the war in Afghanistan anymore. You're not really hearing a lot about other social issues and social programs. You're hearing about jobs, and that's really the backbone, the core of the economic discussion that's been going on in this country right now of how we get out of the economic stress that this country has faced over the last couple of years, not only on the national level, but on the state and local level here too. And that sort of rhetoric, that sort of talk has filtered its way right on down to the local elections. And you hear mayors saying, well, how are you going to bring jobs to our town? You hear in the congressional, of course, the congressional seats, but also in the, in the city of Providence. It's going right down to town council races and city council races. How are they going to improve the economy? Those aren't historically races where you've heard those discussions, but those questions are being asked by the voters because that's the number one topic of discussion on their minds.
It certainly is, and it's going to be an interesting night and for sure to watch how the rest of the results come in. As we've said, there's already a number of results in. The Republicans have picked up one seat in the Senate. The Democrats, believe it or not, pretty surprisingly, have gained a seat in the House already tonight. So like we said, anything really can happen on election night. Christina O'Donnell, the much talked about candidate for Congress in Delaware, has been defeated. We are now willing to call that race, so she will not be a senator. Other important races will be coming in as the next hour goes by. The polls have closed in Massachusetts, so we're going to have updates for you on the Mass governor's race and a lot of other very important races over the next 20 to 30 minutes until we get into the Rhode Island poll closings. But to lead us into those poll closings in Rhode Island, we want to bring you up to date with what's going on with the elections, a little bit of the road to the election here in Rhode Island. So we're going to run for you now a clip that we put together on the road to the election and the major issues that have affected the election so far.
I return to speak to all of you about an issue that is central to that future, and that is the issue of health care. I am not the first president to take up this cause, but I am determined to be the last. It has now been nearly a century since Theodore Roosevelt first called for health care reform. And ever since, nearly every president and Congress, whether Democrat or Republican, has attempted to meet this challenge in some way.
Throwing the current system under the bus and replacing it with this giant government bureaucracy is not what I want, it's not what the American people want. We can make the current system work better for more Americans at lower cost. But that has to be the focus, not having 53 new agencies, boards, commissions, and programs, as we see outlined in their bill.
I want our leaders, the people like us, the left and the right, I want us to stand up to them and tell them, no, don't do this to us. You dirty thieves! Dirty thieves!
The sheriff should be enough.
Dirty thieves!
Right here. I got a book here called the USS Constitution. I'm sure everybody's seen this before. And do you know what? I've read this book 3 times now, and I've referenced it dozens of times, and you know I can't find one little paragraph in here that says that the government has the right to take over our health care.
And it turns out that the Republicans' health care plan was a blank piece of paper. I inquired further, trying to find out exactly what the Republicans' health care plan is, and it's my duty and pride tonight to be able to announce exactly what the Republicans plan to do for health care in America. It's this. Very simply, it's a very simple plan. Here it is, the Republicans' health care plan for America, don't get sick.
I doubt that some of the things we'll talk about today will be talked about at President Obama's summit. Unemployment rate is still over 10%. Over 3 million Americans have lost their jobs since the stimulus bill was signed into law. You know, as a former small businessman myself, I know what it takes to meet a payroll. And I can tell you that the policies being proposed by this administration and their Democrat allies here in Congress are causing employers to sit on their hands.
Over the past 10 months, we've taken a number of bold steps to break the back of this recession. We've worked to stabilize the financial system, revive lending to small businesses and families, and prevent responsible homeowners from losing their homes. And through the Recovery Act, we've cut taxes for middle-class families, extended and increased unemployment insurance, and created and saved more than 1 million jobs. As a result, the economy is now growing again for the first time in more than a year.
Republicans understand when we were in charge, we got fired in '06. We spent too much money. We defied the trust that the people had put in us, and we know that there is a better way. We've also seen the errors being committed by the current Democratic majority in the White House, which have exploded the size of government, which has led us to incur more debt than we have in this country in the last 200 years. And we need to actually come together and begin to cut spending, rein in the size of government, and get people back to work.
These are the folks whose policies helped devastate our middle class. They drove our economy into a ditch. And we got in there and put on our boots, and we pushed and we shoved, and we were sweating, and these guys were standing, watching us and sipping on a Slurpee. And they were pointing at us saying, how come you're not pushing harder? How come you're not pushing faster? And then when we finally got the car up, and it's got a few dings and a few dents, it's got some mud on it, but we're going to have to do some work on it. They point at everybody and say, look what these guys did to your car. After we got it out of the ditch. And then they got the nerve to ask for the keys back. I don't want to give them the keys back. They don't know how to drive. I mean, I want everybody to think about it here. When you want to go forward in your car, what do? You put it in D. They're going to pop it in reverse. They'd have those special interests riding shotgun. Then they'd hit the gas and we'd be right back in the ditch.
I agree with my colleague. The Republicans had an alternative plan that would have cost half the money and created twice the jobs. It would have lowered tax rates for small businesses, for individuals. This economy would be up and going by now had we instituted that. And again, not one single Republican in the House voted for that.
That is the road to the election here in Rhode Island 2010. Kind of to set the scene for you as how everything are looking. We're going to update you on a few other national statistics before we get into some more local stuff. On the federal level, the Democrats have picked up 1 or projected to pick up 2 seats in the House. The Republicans have now gained 2 in the Senate, even though they are now reporting that Linda McMahon is going to lose in our neighboring state of Kentucky. Like we said, Democratic results are coming in. We're going to try to keep you up to date, especially on the Republican Perry's race. He's trying to pick up that seat, another very big member of the Tea Party out on the Cape in Massachusetts, and we're going to try to keep you up to date with that. But let's talk Rhode Island. We're in Rhode Island. Let's talk a little Rhode Island politics. The governor's race is going to be coming up, and we're going to discuss that. But actually, I was right on with Jeff Perry in the Tea Party. So we're going to talk a little the Tea Party first. So we're actually going to roll a clip. This is the history of the Tea Party. We're going to see the effect of them all night long tonight. We already have with people like Rand Paul pulling out the victory early on. The downside of them was Christina O'Donnell lost what was considered a sure pickup for the Republicans in Delaware. So it's definitely a polarizing party. We've heard a lot from them over the last few months. So now we're going to play for you. This is a short documentary on the history, and it's a short one, only a couple of years, of the Tea Party movement.
On December 16, 1773, after officials in Boston refused to return 3 shiploads of taxed tea to Britain, a group of colonists boarded the ships and destroyed the tea by throwing it into Boston Harbor. The Boston Tea Party was a direct action by colonists in Boston, Massachusetts against the Britain government. The Tea Party was the culmination of a resistance movement throughout British America against the Tea Act, which had been passed by the British Parliament in 1773. Colonists objected to the Tea Act for a variety of reasons, especially because they believed that it violated their right to be taxed only by their own elected representatives. Fast forward 237 years and you will find a similar movement.
The government is promoting bad behavior because we certainly don't want to put stimulus forth and give people a whopping $8 or $10 in their check and think that they ought to save it. And in terms of modifications, I'll tell you what, I have an idea. You know, the new administration's big on computers and technology. How about this, President and new administration? Why don't you put up a website to have people vote on the internet as a referendum to see if we really want to subsidize the losers' mortgages, or would we like to at least buy cars and buy houses in foreclosure and give them to people that might have a chance to actually prosper down the road and reward people that could carry the water instead of drink the water.
Hey, Rick,
that's a novel idea.
Hey, Rick, did you...
What? Oh. This is America. How many of you people want to pay for your neighbor's mortgage that has an extra bathroom and can't pay their bills? Raise their hand. How about we all... President Obama, are you listening?
This clip went viral after being featured on The Drudge Report in February 2009. Through the use of social media, small protests were organized in 40 cities later that month. This would be one of the first Tea Party protests. The Tea Party does not have a formal national leadership at this time, leaving organizing as a grassroots effort among individuals, special interest groups, and political action committees. In April 2010, CPAC announced 10 points that it would encourage congressional candidates to follow. These points are a result of a vote within the Conservative Political Action Committee over a 2-month period, narrowing down the focus from 21 points. These points include: 1. Identify the constitutionality of every new law. Require each bill to identify a specific provision in the U.S. Constitution that gives Congress the power to do what the bill does. Number 2, reject emissions trading. Stop the cap-and-trade administrative approach used to control carbon dioxide emissions by providing economic incentives for achieving reductions in carbon emissions. Number 3, demand a balanced federal budget. Begin the constitutional amendment process to require a balanced budget with a 2/3 majority needed for any tax modification. Number 4, simplify the tax system. Adopt a simple and fair single-rate tax system by scrapping the Internal Revenue Code and replacing it with one that is no longer than 4,543 words, the length of the original Constitution. Number 5, audit federal government agencies for constitutionality. Create a blue-ribbon task force that engages in an audit of federal agencies and programs, assessing their constitutionality and identifying duplication, waste, ineffectiveness in agencies and programs that are better left for state and local authorities. Number 6, limit annual growth in federal spending. Impose a statutory cap limiting the growth in total federal spending to the sum of the inflation rate plus percentage of population growth. Number 7, repeal the healthcare legislation passed on March 23, 2010. Defund, repeal, and replace the Patient Protection and Affordable Health Care Act. Number 8, pass an all-of-the-above energy policy. Authorize the exploration of additional energy reserves to reduce America's dependency on energy sources and reduce regulatory barriers in all of the forms of energy creation. Number 9, reduce earmarks. Place a moratorium on all earmarks until the budget is balanced, and then require a 2/3 majority to pass any earmark. Number 10, reduce taxes. Permanently repeal all recent tax increases and extend the current temporary tax reductions to the income tax, capital gains, and estate taxes, scheduled to end in 2011. The party has had an influence in elections so far, most notably the election of Massachusetts U.S. Senator Scott Brown, in a special election to replace former Senator Ted Kennedy, although the true test of the influence of the Tea Party will not be validated until the midterm election. The movement has its share of critics. the party has been accused of being a radical conservative group, as well as accusations of racism. Both politicians and pundits have embraced the movement. Most notably, Fox News' Glenn Beck. On August 28, 2010, Beck organized a rally entitled Restoring Honor on the anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech.
We must restore honor.
When questioned about the timing, Beck responded that he didn't realize that he had scheduled that particular date when he applied for the permit several months ago. Beck argued that the focus of the rally was to pay tribute to America's military personnel and others who embody the nation's founding principles of integrity, truth, and honor, and was never at odds with King's message. Reverend Al Sharpton organized a counter-rally on the same day. Sharpton and others protested, calling Beck's demonstration an anti-government rally advocating states' rights.
We wanted to bring the poor of America to Washington for the federal government to deal with that. Well, that's what Glenn Beck calls communism and socialism.
He said that the event goes against the message in Dr. King's speech, in which the civil rights leader appealed for the federal government to ensure equality. Quote, "The structural breakdown of a strong national government, which is what they are calling for, is something that does not serve the interest of the nation and is something that Dr. King and others fought against," according to Sharpton. The future of the Tea Party will depend on several factors. Will the Republicans co-opt the message of the movement? Will the Tea Party attract a strong independent leadership that could propel the movement into a full-fledged political party? Or will the movement be abandoned for a more moderate movement, leaving the Tea Party to be considered an extremist fringe? Comedy Central's news programs, The Colbert Report and The Daily Show, have held their own parody events, entitled The Rally to Restore Sanity and The March to Keep Fear Alive. Stephen Colbert also testified before Congress on the conditions of migrant farm workers in the South.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Colbert, and I am an American citizen. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. Congresswoman Lofgren asked me to share my vast experience spending one day as a migrant farm worker.
On that note, let's talk about some of the interesting state-level parties. Here in Rhode Island, there has been a party called the Cool Moose Party, founded in 1986 when Robert Healey first ran for governor. Healey, a RIC alumnus, is running for lieutenant governor this year in the state of Rhode Island, with the goal of eliminating the position.
Well, it's pretty much a simple issue. I mean, I think we're wasting $1 million a year running an office that's function is redundant. We have people doing these types of jobs already, and this office particularly doesn't have any real function on its own, and I think it's time we either build something into it or get rid of it completely.
Another themed party in the news lately is the My Rent is Too Damn High party. Jimmy McMillan, the My Rent is Too Damn High party candidate for New York governor.
I represent the Rent is Too Damn High party. People are working 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week, and some a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket.
Although McMillan may not have a chance in the election, his performance at the debate will live on forever as a viral video on the internet. We now leave you with the auto-tuned remix.
I represent the Rent is Too Damn High party. People are working 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week, and some a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket. As a karate expert, I will not talk about anyone up here, because our children can't afford to live anywhere. Nowhere. There's nowhere to go. Once again, why? You said it, the rent is too damn high.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Cuomo.
First, I'm with Jimmy, the rent is too damn high. Rent too damn high, part of you. If you want to marry, shoot, I'll marry you. As a karate expert, I will not talk about anyone up here, because our children can't afford to live anywhere. You said it, the rent is too damn high.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan.
As a karate expert, I will not talk about anyone up here, because our children can't afford to live anywhere. Nowhere. There's nowhere to go. Once again, why? You said it, the rent is too damn high.
And welcome back to live coverage here on Anchor TV of election 2010. It has certainly been an interesting night. We're getting numbers in left and right. As of right now, the Democrats control 44 seats in the Senate, the Republicans 32, but those results are sure to change as more and more results come in. In the House, it's currently 59 Republicans, 20 Dems, but that number does need to be offset with the fact that the Republicans have only picked up one seat so far tonight. Not a massive change, but still a change. Like we said, those results are going to change as the night goes on. So we hope you enjoyed our little clip about the Tea Party. We're going to take a quick break, try to get you some more numbers. Polls are closed in Massachusetts. Numbers are coming in. 2% of precincts reporting Deval Patrick and Martha Coakley both have a lead. But we'll have more updates for you on those numbers when we get back. Stay tuned to Anchor TV, live election 2010 coverage.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
And welcome back to live coverage here on Anchor TV. Still a very exciting election night. Now we're going to start to get into those election results here in Rhode Island. Only 15 minutes till polls close. If you haven't voted, you now need to run to the polls. We want everybody here at the college to get out and vote. Let your voice be heard, no matter what that voice is. One of the most impressive campaigns on both sides have definitely been the governor race here in Rhode Island, as it has been very contested all throughout the election season, mainly between Caprio and Chafee, but recently Robitaille has gotten into that race as well. Robitaille's late charge definitely started after a little mishap by Caprio only a week ago when Obama came to the district to endorse Cicilline and did not endorse Caprio. After that, Caprio went on to the radio on John DePietro's show on WPRO, and he said this.
I've never asked President Obama for his endorsement. And what's going on here is really Washington insider politics at its worst. You have 2 former senators, Senator Chafee and former Senator Obama, who have behind the scenes tried to put together an endorsement for Senator Chafee, and who knows, maybe there'll even be one coming. But I never asked for President Obama's endorsement. He could take his endorsement and really shove it, as far as I'm concerned. The reality here is that Rhode Islanders are hurting. Right? We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. We had one of the worst floods in the history of the United States a few months back. And President Obama didn't even do a flyover of Rhode Island like President Bush did when New Orleans had their problems. He ignored us, and now he's coming into Rhode Island treating us like an ATM machine. So what I'm saying to President Obama very clearly is I'll wear as a badge of honor and a badge of courage that he doesn't want to endorse me as a Democrat, because I am a different kind of Democrat.
So that was Frank
I've never
Caprio
asked President Obama for his
John DePietro's show on
endorsement.
WPRO to the lack of an endorsement from President Obama. After that, Clinton came to the area and endorsed Caprio later on. He's also gotten a lot of support, especially today, with a lot of robocalls from Jack Reed going out to Democrats all around the state. Nick, how do you think this is going to affect the voter turnout in a very blue state of Rhode Island tonight as the night goes on?
Well, Cameron, it certainly will affect the state in the election results here tonight. Caprio's comments referring to the president as using Rhode Island as an ATM machine, certainly referring him, saying he could take his endorsement and really shove it. Those comments did hurt him for a time, but is a Democrat making a comeback here in the final week of the election. He had a strong showing in the final debate here at Rhode Island College held on Friday night. Of course, he had Bill Clinton come in over the weekend to support him. Will those things be enough for Rhode Islanders to forget those comments? And will those comments really all that bad? if you look at the Great Flood of 2010 earlier this year, there's a lot of Rhode Islanders still upset with President Obama for flying over Rhode Island and visiting damaged areas in Massachusetts and attending a fundraiser there, not visiting the flood damaged areas in Rhode Island. If Rhode Islanders still have a lot of negative feelings hampering against President Obama for that, that could help Caprio here today. So we're going to see how that plays out as the election results begin to come in. Looking at the race for governor, of course, we've got the four candidates. We've had Lincoln Chafee leading for much of the time, but again, his lead has been dwindling somewhat as Robitaille has made gains here in the final week. Frank Caprio, of course, was the second runner for much of the time. Now with Caprio falling behind Robitaille, one of the latest polls, and neck with him in another one of the latest polls, it certainly makes it interesting which of those two candidates will make the run at Chafee. Against, of course, also Chafee still the front runner heading in here to election night. And then you got Ken Block. Now, what is he trying to do? He only has 3 to 6%, depending on the poll you look at, of the vote. Can he get that 5% to keep his newly founded moderate party an officially recognized party in the state? That's what his objective is. That's what he's trying to get support here tonight for, and did he get enough voters to do that? There's also 3 independents in this race as well: Joseph Lucy, Ron Algieri, and Todd Giroux. How will their impact on the race impact perhaps what could be a very close race for governor? Will the 1% or 0.5% that those 3 candidates get here tonight make the difference in this race in determining who the next governor of the state of Rhode Island is through the next 4 years?
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting to follow throughout the rest of the night, and that governor's race will be very tight. Earlier today, we do have video of Chafee as he's going to vote. So Chafee voting earlier in the day, and a great reaction from the mayor of Warwick that we're going to play for you now.
How you doing, Eric?
John Chafee was my first boss. I worked for him 30 years ago. I filed a link onto the city council. I filed a link into the mayor's office. We've been friends for 30 years. So I think nobody is surprised to have me out here being supportive of him. I think that he has brought a truthful, honest message to the people of Rhode Island, and I think that he'll be successful tonight as well.
Any predictions for today?
I'm hoping we pick up a couple legislative seats. You know, Dawson Hodgson is really working hard down here. He has one small district in Potawatomi. He has put in his time and his energy into trying to bring his message to people. So I'm hopeful we have a couple upsets on the legislative level and on our council seats.
Yeah, this is him talking about Chafee. And welcome back to Anchor TV's live coverage of Election 2010. We have updated numbers on the Mass governor's race. Deval Patrick, with 4% in, has a 51-41 lead over Patrick, with Cahill trailing behind with only 7% of the vote. So in Massachusetts, the Independent Party not doing nearly as strong as they're expected to do here in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, polls close in 9 minutes. So we're going to have lots of results for you coming up. They're going to come very quickly after 9 o'clock. We're expecting some of those races we might even be able to call instantly. But as this election built here at Rhode Island College, the students were very involved in the early ongoings of this election through the American Democracy Project here on campus, mainly run out of the communications department. The political science department helps out as well. What do you think about the American Democracy Project here on campus and the involvement of college students now?
Well, ADP has been very active here on the college campus for years now, going back, I can even remember the 2004 election when they played a prominent role here, hosting some debate watches. They did the same thing again in 2006. They were active here in 2008, and of course here in 2010, they've been active in particularly organizing that final gubernatorial debate and the congressional debates. They were both held, all 3 of them were held here at the college on Friday. Those were big events for the college, certainly big events for the students that were involved in that, to get a first-hand look at the political process, but they're also very important events for the voters of the state who would want a final chance to take a look at the gubernatorial candidates and the congressional candidates in District 1 and District 2.
It certainly was a great thing to have on campus and a great chance for students. We have a short video for you here talking about exactly what that American Democracy Project was on campus. So this is the American Democracy Project at Rhode Island College.
The American Democracy Project, ADP, is an initiative of the American Association of State Colleges and University Campuses. that seeks to create an intellectual and experimental understanding of civic engagement for undergraduates enrolled at institutions that are members of the AASCU. The goal of the project is to produce graduates who understand and are committed to engaging in meaningful actions as citizens in a democracy. Valerie Indress is the ADP coordinator and associate professor of political communications at RIC. When the program was in its beginning, she said, "This is one project in which students are in the forefront, and we're going to look to them for guidance." We had the opportunity to interview her on the American Democracy Project to learn more about how it got its start, if the ADP has been a success, and if it will continue into future years here at RIC.
It was actually one of our vice presidents who was active in the organization. It was the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, and he was very active in that organization, and they were promoting it. So he promoted it on campus and got interested faculty to become involved. We've very carefully built our reputation throughout Rhode Island so that, for example, because I'm associated with the American Democracy Project, a lot of people that I'll meet in other towns, let's say in Cranston or Warwick, will say, "I know of that organization," or "I've been to one of your events." And so we've developed a really strong reputation on the campus. And we do have a core of students who work with us, but one of the things that we want to do in years as we progress is to get more and more students involved. Mostly students are involved with the forums and attending. For example, we're sponsoring the political debates, congressional and gubernatorial debates this Friday. And very often students will be audience to the event, and we have a select group of students that we choose that help us with the event planning. But sooner or later, what we want to do is to get the students more involved in creating their own programs with the American Democracy Project. Right now, it's more or less the faculty who are involved and the core group that choose the programs that we do.
Jane Fusco is RIC's News and PR Director and the ADP organizer. She appears on NBC 10 as well as other news shows to inform those on what the ADP is and on topics of who sponsors the program. When we met with Jane, she was very helpful and taught us all about the program.
Rhode Island College is the only college in the state to participate in the program and one of only 225 colleges nationwide. The ADP at RIC is a self-contained entity within the college, so we're self-sufficient and self-supporting. We do have the support of the Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences to assist us, and of course the administration of the college.
The ADP has a series of initiatives, all of which revolve around civic engagement. The initiative that Rhode Island College takes part in is called e-citizenship. E-citizenship is full of new tools, strategies, and spaces. E-citizenship interacts students with civic engagement through Facebook and blogs, which are all transforming the way citizens interact with others and with the government. The e-citizenship initiative has a set of goals. This 3-year initiative is a partnership of the AASCU and the Center for Study of Citizenship at Wayne State University. Still in the beginning phases, the participating 35 institutions in this initiative will work together to study how emerging technologies, particularly social networks, support and facilitate civic and political engagement. The main goal of the initiative is to provide insights into strategies for engaging undergraduates in the use of social networks and technology tools for civic purposes. The National Democracy Project visited Providence and met with our campus's program. While on their visit, they wanted to hear what our kids in our community have to say about democracy in America. Kids Talk Democracy is an effort to listen to the voices of children, hear their hopes for the future, and hopefully become inspired. 23 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were questioned. The first question was, "What do you hope for the future of our country?" This involvement with kids is very important. The ADP is involving civic engagement not only through the college campuses, but through the elementary schools like those of Henry Barnard. Rhode Island College is proud to be one of the first colleges in the nation to participate in this important initiative. The goals for the ADP are entirely consistent with the goals of Rhode Island College as an institution committed to academic excellence, to the value of life lived in service to others, and to the personal and professional success of its graduates.
our video on the American Democracy Project, something that has been great for Rhode Island College students to get involved in leading up to this election and keeping them very involved. That great involvement, I'm sure the school will be looking for when we get to the Art Center, which is going to be a very important issue that we need a lot of student support for if the school is going to get that Art Center project passed. But also in other races, there's a lot of great national results coming in. In Rhode Island, we're going to have results for you in minutes. The first polls close here in Rhode Island in only 2 minutes, so we're going to have the live results of a lot of great, very tight elections here in Rhode Island shortly after that. Manchin in West Virginia, we can now project as the winner. He's going to hold on to his Senate seat, which was certainly one that was up for grabs at one point in time. Although if you look at the trending of a lot of the elections nationwide, it certainly does look to be a big night for the Republicans as projected. In many of the toss-up and leaning Democrat races, Republicans are performing very strongly here tonight. They've already won a few of those. The New York Times was projecting that Virginia 9 in the House was going to lean Democratic. It actually has already been called by just about every major news source as a Republican win. So they're certainly making inroads in generally Democratic areas tonight. So the question really will be not necessarily if the Republicans take the House, but what kind of a majority they have in the House when they take it. So Nick, what do you think about the nationwide movement of the Republicans most likely taking the House tonight?
The big thing for the Republicans is they had control of the House and the Senate in recent years. This is just getting back to where they were in the late 90s and the early 2000s as the Republicans try to regain that majority in the House, perhaps even the Senate. But certainly it's looking like the House will happen at this point if things continue to trend as they are right now. What does that mean for the Obama administration? What does that mean for the Republican Party in this country trying to make a rebound after a tough few years in losing the presidential election to Barack Obama? Of course, John McCain was a stalwart, at the time, even considered moderate candidate of the Republican Party, and he lost to the Democrat Obama. It really looked like the Republican Party was going to be on a long-term downswing. But to rebound so quickly here in the midterm elections, just 2 years into the president's term, means the Republican Party is not going down without a fight. They certainly are fighting back. But again, these gains that they're making here, they're simply regaining ground that was lost in the last 6 to 8 years. It's nothing really new. It just could put the Republican Party back into a position it has been in within the last decade.
Certainly will be interesting to track that throughout the night. The race for governor's seats also will be getting a lot of attention. In Massachusetts, now 11% of precincts have reported, and Deval Patrick has a 49-42% lead early on in the night. That will certainly be a race to follow throughout the night, as so many of our students certainly do come from Massachusetts. The 9 o'clock polls are closing, so if you have not voted, you are not voting, but we hope you did. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have coverage of the Art Center and the question 2 here in Rhode Island, and we're going to try to get you up to date with that, as long as we're also hoping that we can give you some quick results from some of the less contested races here in Rhode Island. This is Anchor TV, Election 2010.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
And welcome back to live Anchor TV coverage of Election 2010 here from the Student Union Ballroom. This is Cameron Spalding, joined by Nick Lima, trying to keep you up to date on all the elections. As we said, the polls have closed here in Rhode Island, and one race that will be watched very closely by everyone here, certainly at Rhode Island College, is the race for Question 2. Question 2 was a hotly contested issue at the end, as it started to become more of an issue as the Tea Party today released an official statement asking people not to vote for Question 2. And it started to gain more and more interest from that point on. So how that race turns out will certainly be interesting to see today. What do you think the results will be in the end for question 2?
Well, question 2 may see the same fate as question 3, question 4. Those 3 questions are monetary questions. Of course, question 1 deals with changing the state's official name from State of Rhode Island Providence Plantation, shortening that to just the State of Rhode Island. Question 3, transportation bonds, $84.7 million for transportation bonds to match federal bonds. Question 4, open space and recreation, $14.7 million. And question 2, higher education bonds for URI and Rhode Island College, totaling $78 million. The majority of that going to the university, but a good chunk of it, $17 million, coming to Rhode Island College to renovate the Arts Center. Will those 3 pass? I think that's the real question right now, because they're all monetary issues. People look at monetary issues and they say, can we afford it right now? That's the first question that comes to mind in a lot of voters, is that they recognize the state's in debt. We have deficits now, year after year, projected here in the state of Rhode Island. If they look at these issues and saying, can we afford more debt, regardless of the need for these projects, be it transportation, be it open space, be it the higher education bonds, will it pass? I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people going to the polls and voting no on all those monetary questions because of that. The transportation bonds, question 3, probably has the best shot at passing because that's something that's frequently on referenda. It is for matching funds from the federal government, and of course people look at transportation as one of the main services of government. But education really is one of those main services too. How important that service is resonating with the voters right now in this state, well, that's going to determine whether or not question 2 will pass here tonight. Of course, the Rhode Island College community and many other people in higher education in the state have been campaigning mightily for this over the course of the last few weeks. Will it be too little too late? We'll certainly find out as this night progresses.
Certainly would be very interesting to follow. We do not have any precincts yet reporting in Rhode Island, but as far as national races go, we talked about it before the commercial break. We are now able to officially say we are projecting that the Republicans will take the House of Representatives tonight. It looks very clear reading the early returns that will happen. The Senate, on the other hand, does not look as strong. As of this minute, with 23 races still undecided, the Democrats already hold 46 seats in the Senate. So they need to win 4 because they do hold that tiebreaker with Vice President Joe Biden. So they need to win 4 of the last 23 seats to regain control. Most likely something they will do. So the race is really on for the House. Although it looks like the Republicans will win that, it's more of a question now of how big will that win be, where will the parties sit at the end of the night, and how will the Obama administration move on after these losses. So as we talked about the Art Center before, let's just get back to that quickly. We have a quick video for you on the condition of the Art Center.
Next to the updated Alger Hall lies the hub of art majors, the Arts Center. Outside on the patio, cracked walls, old installations, and poor structures are abundant. Indoors is not so glamorous either. Inadequate ventilation, faulty wiring, and asbestos are eyesores to the students that work and learn in the building. Students have a laundry list of changes needed to the Arts Center. But how will these changes be made? Question 2, a question poised for Rhode Island voters, will allow the Rick Arts Center and the URI Chemistry Building to make the repairs and renovations necessary through an over $70 million bond.
Scrambled eggs, fresh toast, pick it up, please.
Oil comes into a kitchen like this. They use it to make French fries, chicken nuggets, chicken fingers, and it gets dirty. Once that oil gets dirty and is not usable anymore, we can then take that and turn it into a renewable fuel source in biodiesel.
Well, we were trying to do something environmentally responsible, and I was approached by the biodiesel about what they do with the oil, and it was a good chance to put it back and recycle it. Now we just ease it out, and this is your dirty oil, of course, which usually would be just thrown away. We would just put it in a container where it's actually hauled away. So many people just don't care. Litter, plastic, paper plates, where does it all end? Well, we're trying to make it end here at Sigma Kappa.
So we're going to start up the main biodiesel reactor where we convert the vegetable oil directly into biodiesel. So inside this tank we have vegetable oil, sulfuric acid, and methanol.
Here what we're doing is we're doing a titration to find out how much free fatty acid is in the oil that comes from the restaurants. Titration is a very simple chemical process, however, it's difficult to do without the adequate resources and lab space. And there you go, it's pink. Now that reading will tell us how much free fatty acid is in our oil and allow us to continue our biodiesel process efficiently. I was fortunate enough to buy a new car last year, and my experience in the chemistry department at URI led me to the purchase of my first diesel vehicle, which I turned into a biodiesel car, and I run 100% biodiesel on it right now.
From fighting disease, to creating renewable energy, to making our homeland safe, chemistry is essential to our future. A new chemistry building at the University of Rhode Island will prepare our students for cutting-edge fields, start new companies, and create new jobs. Help young Rhode Islanders stay in Rhode Island. Vote yes to new discoveries and for new jobs. Vote yes on question 2.
And welcome back to live coverage here from the Student Union of election 2010. Rand Paul has just done his victory speech. It's still playing live on a lot of your national networks, accepting the win as the new senator of the state of Kentucky, the first big Tea Party victory of the night to go out there. He led off his speech by saying, "Tonight there is a Tea Party tidal wave striking America." It's certainly an interesting quote that gets a lot of emotion running. It'll be interesting to see if that holds strong. In New York, another blue state like Rhode Island, it has not. Carl Palladino, a Tea Party candidate, has lost governor. Andrew Cuomo is the governor of New York State. Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer have both been declared as the senators from New York State. So certainly the Tea Party wave did not hit there. It'll be interesting to see if it hits here in Rhode Island. Do candidates like Robitaille have a chance? Even if he doesn't win, it will be very interesting to see how he does in the polls. Does he get to that maybe 20% mark or 25%? It'll be interesting to watch that. It'll be also cool to see what happens in the District 1 race with Cicilline. Will he win? It's gone back and forth in recent days, so it will be very interesting to see how that works out. The national races are coming in very quickly now. En masse, it's still too early to project, but the lead is growing for Deval Patrick. So Deval Patrick looks very strong, along with Deval Patrick, who has also gained an early lead. So Nick, when you look at these early results, what kind of a vibe are you getting? What do you expect to see in Rhode Island? Do you have any feelings on who you think's going to win these races, judging from everything else?
Of course, the Tea Party never really got off going strong here in Rhode Island. They've certainly had their presence, they've made their voice heard, but they didn't field really any candidates, didn't get a true party going here in the Ocean State. Instead, what we have here is the moderate party. And the question is, will the moderate party hurt the Republicans or help them? In some cases, you've seen moderates ally with the Republicans as part of the Clean Slate initiative here in the state of Rhode Island. In other cases, particularly in the gubernatorial race, you have a Republican in Robitaille who's garnering anywhere from 23 to 28 to 29% of the vote, and you've got a moderate in Ken Block who can get anywhere from 4 to 6 or even 7% of the vote here. How many of those votes, potential voters, would have gone to Robitaille, and will that hurt the Republicans and their chances for the gubernatorial election? Chris Little, the moderate, also running for Attorney General. Other moderates on the ballot as well in local and town elections as well, including in the city of Cranston and Narragansett. And all throughout the state, the moderate party has made a slow start here in the state of Rhode Island, but they've certainly made their presence known, and it's going to be affecting several incumbents and several established political party candidates as the night goes on.
It will be something that we're trying to keep track of as closely as we can. There have been several big wins here early on for both parties across the country and several unexpected wins, but we're going to try to keep you up to date with that as quickly as we can as the night progresses. The Tea Party certainly has made its presence felt here early across the country, and it's impressive to see the wins that they've gotten. The question that most national pundits are already asking is, how will this party work with the Republican Party that they did run under? Candidates like Rand Paul have already said that he will question and challenge Mitch McConnell, who is the head of the Republicans in the Senate, every day. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works. We can also now project, just like we projected the House will go Republican, we can project that the Senate will remain under the control of the Democratic Party at the end of the night tonight. So the Democrats will retain the Senate, but they will lose the House. So it'll be very interesting to see how that goes on throughout the rest of the year. This is basically what we expected, Nick.
Pretty much, for the most part, with the Democrats retaining control of the Senate and the Republicans gaining, at this point, still projecting to be a 37-seat majority in the House of Representatives. Of course, that could change. There's a plus and minus margin over there of about 12 to 13 seats. And we're still waiting for many more results to come in. Of course, the polls on the West Coast will be closing for several hours now, and we don't even have any results yet on the state of Rhode Island. But the results are coming in from Massachusetts. We have up to 20% of precincts reporting now in the local and statewide races, between 7 and 8% reporting in the congressional races in Massachusetts. We'll have many more of those for you coming up. So while we have a moment to remind you, there's a lot of mayoral races here in the state of Rhode Island. We'll be updating you on as the night goes on. In the city of Warwick, the long-time incumbent Republican Scott Avedisian running for re-election against John Kirby, the Democrat. In the city of Cranston, incumbent Mayor Alan Fung, Republican, running for his second term. Of course, he's the first Asian American to hold the mayoral seat in the state of Rhode Island. He's running against Democrat Richard Tomlins. In the town of Johnston, Joe Polsina, the Democrat, facing off against Peter Filippi, the Republican, and Raymond Aguado, the Independent. And of course, in one of the biggest races of the primary a couple months ago, the Democrat Angel Tavares running in against Independent John Scott. Tavares is projected winner to be the next mayor of the city of Providence.
Yeah, that actually is a race that we can already project. The mayor of the city of Providence will be Angel Tavares. He is the projected winner here in the city of Providence. And now the break. During these breaks in the next hour, though, we're actually going to play for you some videos of commercials from different campaigns across the country, along with some reactions from members of the staff here at Anchor TV. So be sure to be on the watch out for those. So this will be a short commercial break and a couple political commercials for you to enjoy as well.
Of the electoral process for years now.
They started with political cartoons in newspapers and evolved into radio broadcasts.
And now they're on television and the internet.
Tonight we'll be showcasing for you some of the most notable political ads from this season.
Enjoy!
Charlie Crist's attacks, over the top, out of context, and not true. But can you blame him for trying to rally a little?
The first one was from Marco Rubio, a Republican running for a Senate seat in Florida. The second was from Christine O'Donnell, a Republican in Delaware.
So the Rubio ad has absolutely no substance to it whatsoever. He does not explain why Governor Crist's attacks were out of context or what was over the top about him. I think that this ad had the potential to be highly effective if he had actually offered evidence as to why the remarks, which we have no idea what they were over the top and out of context.
I agree. The Christine O'Donnell ad had a little bit more substance. At least she told us something about herself. However, she starts it off by saying, "I am not a witch," when she appears to clearly have a cauldron brewing behind her. It's not an ad that tells us anything about her as a person or a politician, or anything about why she's a better choice than her opponent.
And to boot, she says, "I'm you." Well, I'm pretty sure Christine O'Donnell is not me, considering that I'm a liberal, I'm queer, and I'm pro-masturbation, and she's kind of crazy, a teabagger, and anti-masturbation.
That's ridiculous.
Totally.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Back to your coverage here on Anchor TV. We do now have some results coming in with 1% reporting in the lieutenant governor race. Our with Bob. 37% of the vote with 1% reporting. Elizabeth Roberts leads with 39, Robert Healy with 9. Certainly that race is expected to change as the night goes on, as most people expect Roberts and Healy to be in a dead heat throughout the night tonight. In the governor's race with 1% in, Chafee does have a slight lead, but that slight lead is over Robitaille, and not necessarily what everyone expected here tonight. We do have men live at both the Caprio and Chafee headquarters, and we're going to try to bring you updates from there as the night goes on and as the results begin to become more clear. So as these first projections are in, what do you think about the races here in Rhode Island?
Well, it's certainly going to unfold very rapidly at this point forward. If you're just tuning in now's the time to stay glued to your TV screen, stay glued to your computer screen. Your Zenker TV is going to be bringing the results now over the course of the next hour or so. We're expected to see these results come in rapidly. Again, with 1% of precincts reporting right now, that's going to increase dramatically, and that's going to drastically change these results that we have right now. Very tentative coming in. Of course, in the gubernatorial race, where you had Chafee the front runner, both John Robitaille and Frank Caprio making runs at Chafee. Can one of them overtake Chafee? Will Chafee hold out as he has done throughout much of this election season? In the lieutenant governor's race, Elizabeth Roberts facing off against Bob Healy, the endorsed by the Republicans candidate. He's an independent out of the Cool Moose Party, which of course isn't currently recognized in the state, but he's running as a Cool Moose independent. And Bob Venturini from the Hour with Bob Party. How much will he factor in that race? He is a widely known name. Maybe people vote based on name recognition, and a lot of people have been afraid to vote for Bob Healy because of his desire to eliminate the lieutenant governor's office. Hasn't resonated with a lot of Rhode Island voters. Secretary of State Ralph Mollis, the incumbent Democrat, facing off against Terry Taylor, the Republican. They were shown as neck and neck in some of the recent polls heading into Election Day today. For the Attorney General's race, a full field with two independents, a Republican, a Democrat, and a moderate. Chris Little, the moderate. Peter Kilmonton, the Democrat, is the favorite to win. Eric Wallen, the Republican candidate, and then Kevin McKenna, the independent, and Robert Rainville, the independent, will follow that race as results begin to come in momentarily. Also, getting word the results will be coming in soon for the General Treasurer's race. Gina Raimondo, the Democrat, Kernan King, the Republican, in that contest. So the general officers of the state of Rhode Island will be decided here tonight for the most part, unless there's some sort of very, very close race and we have to wait till morning. Hopefully we'll know pretty soon, though, who the next governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, general treasurer, and attorney general of Rhode Island is, and you're going to hear it first here on Anchor TV.
In other races that we are able to call, Donald Graben is the next mayor of Pawtucket, the Democrat. It will win there. Ballot measures, we do have some numbers for you, and I'm sure Rhode Island college students are interested. On issue 1, to remove Ann Providence Plantations from the official state name, it is losing 16 to 84% with 1% reporting. The bond issues are winning all issues, 2, 3, and 4, with higher education having the least margin of victory. It is 50.1% to 49.9%. So we are talking 1/10 of a point is the lead for question 2 to be approved. As you said earlier, those issues could be very controversial, and that one seems to be resonating the least with the public, as you predicted. Transportation, 67.9% approving, then followed by the open space projects, the parks over by India Point with 54.3%, only 50.1% early for the bond issue. So that will be a race that we have to follow all night long. No one really knows the outcome of that. Robitaille is still leading early. The districts that have reported, in case you're wondering, for the governor's district, are all from the center part of the state and the lower part of the state. None of the city of Providence has reported, neither has any of Cranston or North Providence.
Of course, these are key Democratic strongholds in the state of Rhode Island, the urban centers, particularly the city of Providence, but will turnout be low in the city of Providence as the night goes on. A low turnout will, of course, bolster Republican and moderate candidates and independents throughout the state, especially the lack of a straight ticket vote if turnout is low in the state's urban centers. Turnout could be low, particularly in Providence, because there's an essentially uncontested mayoral race with Angel Tavares, the widely held favorite there. And of course, this being a midterm election, you're likely to see fewer Democrats turn out overall. That could benefit the Republicans and give them a slight edge, an edge that we didn't really see show up in the polls leading up to election night.
Yeah, turnout is always very tough to predict, and as the night goes on, that's really going to be the issue that we're tracking. It'll be very interesting to see who exactly turns out and who are these voters and how that affects the election as the night goes on. We're getting very early results, but it's very tricky to track. And so we're trying to stay on top of this election the best we can. In Mass, still with the lead is Deval Patrick, and question 1 as of right now is passing. Those are the 2 races we're following the most, but those results, as we said, just like the Rhode Island race, are very fluid, and we're going to try to keep you with up-to-date numbers as the night goes on. You can also, if you're not going to be able to tune in, you can check both anchortv.org and watch us live on the internet, or anchorweb.org for live up-to-the-minute stats. More and more races are being called. Harry Reid, the senator out of Nevada, his poll will close in only 47 minutes. How do you think the effect of that Harry Reid race will be felt?
Well, it's a very tightly contested race there as well. We've heard a lot of coverage on it in the national media in the last couple of days when you had the Senate Majority Leader facing off against an entrenched opponent, and at times he's trailed his opponent in the final running here. As we get more results from the West Coast about that race, it certainly could send a strong signal from the people of the country that they don't like the way the Democrats have been running things the last couple of years. Issues like the health care bill. That's when the leadership gets taken out, when the people have decided they don't like what the leadership's been pushing as their agenda, pushing as their platform. The leadership will change. And sometimes it won't change through a vote from the actual members of the Senate or members of the House. It'll change because those actual leaders will be voted out by their own constituents. And that can change the tone of the Senate dramatically on a national scale. And that really is why, of course, we talk about the importance of voting. We talk about the voters in Harry Reid's Senate, in his state, for his Senate district. They can impact the entire nation based upon the results of that election here tonight and who leads the United States Senate moving forward.
In the neighboring state of Massachusetts, the Democratic Party seems to be very strong early on, with anywhere from 18 to 35%, depending on the district. Every single representative race in Massachusetts is currently led by the Democratic candidate. The governor race, Deval Patrick is up 49 to 40% over Charlie Baker, with Tim Cahill coming in at 8.1% on the independent party line. So the Democrats looking very strong there. They're also leading in auditor, Secretary of State, Attorney General have both been called. Martha Coakley, who suffered kind of a devastating loss in that Senate race, has been declared the winner. She will continue her job as Attorney General in the state of Massachusetts. But all 3 ballot propositions are currently failing in Massachusetts, including question 1 that we've covered, the bid to remove the tax on alcohol, the extra sales tax. Another bill to lower the level of the standard sales tax to 3% is also failing. So those border communities to Rhode Island are certainly up for debate now. Robitaille still leading in the Rhode Island governor race, 41 to 37% over Lincoln Chafee. But like we said, most of those districts that have been reported have been in the much more conservative central and lower parts of the state. Nothing from the northern part of the district to report yet as far as the election races go.
That's only about 3,400 votes counted right now.
Yeah, with 3,000 votes counted, Robitaille does still have the lead, but certainly many more votes are expected to come in as the night goes on. So Nick, as we see that Massachusetts will stay blue, Rhode Island, though, starting to get a little bit more of a red, at least a purple tinge to it. What do you have to say so far about the election night here in southern New England?
Well, looking at the congressional seats here in the state of Rhode Island, of course, they're going majority Democratic in Massachusetts. We do have some results in right now. Mark Zakaria is trailing Jim Langevin by a pretty wide margin, by more than 12 percentage points at this point, again, with only very few precincts reporting. Haven't heard really from the Laughlin-Cicilline race in the 1st district. That encompasses the majority of the eastern side of the state of Rhode Island, Newport County, the eastern parts of Providence, East Providence, Bristol, Barrington. That entire section of Rhode Island tends to lean a little bit conservative in some areas, a little bit more liberal in other areas. It kind of balances out. But they've sent Patrick Kennedy to Congress now for more than a decade. Will that seat turn Republican? That's the seat that a lot of national media has paid attention to here in the last week, as John Laughlin has made a run up towards Election Day against David Cicilline. Laughlin was trailing by a significant percentage for much of this race, but again, he's made a run here against the current mayor of Providence, David Cicilline, who was the projected front runner according to most polling agencies.
Cicilline now has a 55 to 40 percentage lead, so a 15-point lead early on in Cicilline's race. Question 2, the big issue here at Rhode Island College, with just over 1% of the precincts reporting, is failing. 46.9% in the affirmative, 53.1% voting no. So as of right now, question 2, a very big issue to everyone here at Rhode Island College, still failing. But the Chafee campaign on the governor's race still feeling strong, even though they're trailing early. People are filing into the Warwick campaign headquarters. Also there is Andrew Augustus representing Anchor TV. We're expecting to speak to him later tonight. The Senate, the Republicans have gained 3 seats, so they still need to gain some more, but the Democrats already have 45 seats, with the 2 independents both currently aligned with the Democratic Party as well, one of them being Lehigh, who won easily up in Vermont tonight.
And you see the numbers starting to trickle in now on the bottom of your screen. We get the numbers up there just a moment ago for the gubernatorial race. We'll have updated numbers as they come live as this evening progresses.
In New York State, one of the very interesting races that a lot of people talked about was the Cuomo-Palladino race. Numbers are starting to come in. As of right now, Cuomo is leading 83 to 10% over Palladino. So he is up 73 percentage points over Palladino, who is a very controversial candidate. Of course, everyone saw the different comments on gay members of the community and several other issues as the race went on. So it's very interesting to see how strongly in states like New York the Tea Party has been rebuked. But in other states like Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, they are performing very well. So the Tea Party seems to be very entrenched in the South, but still certainly struggling to gain a foothold here in the North.
And is that really what the Republicans want? Will the Tea Party gaining strength in Republican strongholds serve only to split the Republican Party and not really give them an advantage? Will they form an alliance down the road if they can get a small foothold going? Of course, even if the Tea Party just pick up 10, 15 seats, which they likely will not on a national scale here in this first election, they've really seen them impacted. They still don't really have any sort of power to get any legislation passed in Congress. They'll have to ally themselves with major political parties that are to move forward and to be a power player. But as the years go on, and of course this is sort of we're watching the infancy of what could be a future political party here in the United States, if it really does catch on, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out as we go forward.
In Massachusetts, Barney Frank, one of the most talked about races, is certainly gaining. He is up now 22% over his opponent, so he has gained strong. The biggest Tea Party candidate would certainly, in this area, would certainly be from Massachusetts in the Congressional District 10, Perry, and he is now trailing at 8% to Keating, the incumbent, out on the Cape in District 10 in Massachusetts. So results are constantly pouring in. The governor of Maryland going to the Democratic Party, Martin O'Malley, the incumbent, will hold on to his seat. So certainly results, like we said, coming in very quickly. Ralph Malus is trailing huge early on, down 20
to 40%.
points. So the election not going the way that Ralph Malus thought it would be early. Like we said, we do have someone live from the Democratic Party. It would certainly be interesting to get the feeling of the mood at that party. So we're going to try to get Hayden James on the phone for you quickly. But now we're going to take a short commercial break. Once again, you're probably going to get a few of those political ads for you to think about with some reaction. So this is Anchor TV, live from the ballroom here at Rhode Island College.
I'm Kendrick Meek, and I approve this message.
Meet the real Jeff Green. Ran for Congress as a California Republican. Moved to Florida 2 years ago. Became a billionaire on Wall Street betting middle-class families would lose their homes. Helped fuel the economic meltdown. Warren Buffett called Green's scheme financial weapons of mass destruction.
They'll attack me for my friends and my past when I was single. Some of it's true, but none of it matters.
Betting on suffering does matter.
So we just saw an ad from Senate candidate Kendrick Meek down in Florida. He's the Democrat, against his primary opponent, Jeff Green.
It was a really interesting ad. It was significantly more memorable than the ads we saw earlier. But it's really flashy. I mean, that makes it memorable. but it also comes across sort of as jib-jab satire, and that's not necessarily the best way to get your point across.
However, the ad was highly effective with me creaming Jeff Green in the primaries, and it has lots of substance. Meek outlines exactly why Jeff Green would be a bad choice for Floridians, what he's done in the past. He illustrated how he flip-flopped from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, and illustrated that Jeff Green thought that he could buy his Senate seat.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Ballroom for Anchor TV. Races are coming in much quicker. You're going to actually see across the bottom of the screen, of course, the results in Congressional District 2, Congressional District 1 also coming in early. Langevin looks to be very strong, the Rhode Island College grad early. What do you think about the race between Zakaria and Langevin?
Well, of course, this is the second time they've gone head-to-head now. Zakaria and Langevin faced off 2 years ago, and Mark Zakaria did not fare so well. However, he's polled better this time, though Langevin has held the lead and held his own for much of the race thus far. It's been a race that's been projected to go the Democrats' way for nearly the entire election cycle. Zakaria didn't have a strong chance of winning this seat unless his messages really resonated with voters. He was out there. He was certainly visible throughout the campaign, but it seems like that Jim Langevin, again, the Rhode Island College graduate, class of 1990, will be retaining his long-held seat in Congress. And of course, he would now be the senior congressional, the senior member of the House of Representatives from Rhode Island.
Yes, he would. And in Massachusetts, the ballot measures. Question 1, the sales tax creeping back up there for all you college students. It's now 50-50 in Massachusetts to eliminate the sales tax on alcohol. The other 2 ballot questions are still losing. Deval Patrick's lead is still at 8%, as he is holding on to a lead pretty strongly with 38% reporting there. So he looks very strong early on. It seems like Deval Patrick will most likely hold that seat, although we are not ready to call that seat yet. Many other races are on. The GOP making a push for the Senate, but will that push be strong enough? We have already projected it will not be. So we're going to continue to follow that race for you as the night continues as well. But those ballot measures are being tracked very closely by us here at Anchor TV, especially question 2.
And Bonnie Frank is actually now also being called as the winner in Massachusetts District 7, which includes much of the southeast corner of Massachusetts, including Fall River, New Bedford, and parts in between, Dartmouth and Seekonk as well, all which border Rhode Island. Bonnie Frank, the projected winner there, the longtime Democratic-held seat. He will be going back for another 2-year term in Congress. And also talking about the Massachusetts bond referendums, bond referendum number 3, which is to cut the state sales tax down to 3%. That is failing right now by a 6-point margin, 53 to 47.
In Massachusetts, we can also call the races for Oliver, Capuno, Lynch, and Markley already can be called, and McGovern in District 3 can all be called. They will stay with the Democrats. Several other races like the Keating-Perry race that we've talked about tonight, Keating holds a 12% lead, but is still not eligible to be called. One of those big national races, Christina O'Donnell, is now officially conceding her race for Senate as we speak down in Delaware. There's going to be a lot of those, both concessions and victory speeches, to come up here in Rhode Island, and we're going to try to bring you live video from a few of them as the night goes on. So stick with Anchor TV.
Robert Healy actually now has a 1% lead over Elizabeth Roberts, with Rob Venturini only holding 7% of the vote right now. So Healy is still making a move on Roberts with 1% of precincts reporting, though slightly more than reporting just a few moments ago in the lieutenant governor's race here in Rhode Island. And we're still watching the results as they come in live. We'll bring them to you first here on Anchor TV as the night goes on.
With a new update, actually, just as you're speaking, you talk about those results coming in. Healy's lead is now up to 3% in the lieutenant governor race. So that push that we heard about from Healy of the questions, is this the year, is this his chance? It most likely, even if he loses, really is his chance. This is the best year for a candidate like Healy to run, and that race is going to be very tight down to the wire. He is up 48-45. 10 precincts have reported. That is 2%. So it's still very early, but he is making a real push. Can Healy pull it out? The Republican Party did in the end back Healy after their candidate dropped out. So with the backing of the Republican Party and his strong base, it's very interesting for a Republican candidate to do as strongly in the college and young community as Healy does. He really resonates with young voters. There was a lot of talk of him on campus in the last few weeks. With so few votes in, do you still think that Healy has a legitimate chance to hold on to this seat?
Well, it's certainly possible. His message is really starting to resonate of eliminating the lieutenant governor's office. That's why he's running. He wants to save the state money. He sees the office as useless. Of course, his opponent, Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Roberts, the incumbent, the Democrat, sees the office as still having value, and therefore she wanted to run and very much done what she's done in the last 4 years. Of course, she's received some criticism for that stance and not really choosing to quarrel with Healy on his contention of eliminating the seat. Then you got Bob Venturini, who is a public access show television host, and he's kind of just in there because he's interested in serving that office as well, not really to eliminate it as Healy is trying to. And of course, there was some controversy in the Republican who won in her primary, immediately then decided to back down and throw her support behind Bob Healy.
More interesting news. Laughlin has a 49-46 lead over Cicilline with 2% reporting. So Laughlin with an early lead here tonight.
It'll be very interesting to see if that lead holds up now with just 2% reporting. John Laughlin, who has been trailing Cicilline for much of the time. Cicilline, the established mayor of Providence, of course, his famous name in the state after serving for the last couple of terms as mayor of Providence. His father, Bud Cicilline, was a former state senator down in Newport. Will that name recognition be enough for him, or is it going to hurt him going forward? It could be a real reflection and sort of a statewide referendum on how he did as mayor of the city of Providence.
It really is. I mean, outside of the city, he is expected to poll very low, but his camp still has to be very excited about the night, seeing that not a single district from the city of Providence, North Providence, has reported yet. The area he is expected to do very strongly in tonight. So his race cannot be too down on themselves, but it's still a shock to ever see him trail in a race, especially a state like Rhode Island.
Of course, there you're talking about a tenth of the population of the state in the city of Providence alone.
Langevin's lead continues to expand. He is now up to a 12% lead in Congressional District 2. We're having him at 48-37. So that race will be very interesting to follow as the night goes on. More than likely, within the next half hour, we will be able to call that race for Langevin. I know you originally heard we were going to be going off the air at 10, but with so little known, we're going to try to stay on the air to at least 10:30 for you tonight, and we'll try to bring you live updates. So stick with us throughout the night. There we go. Langevin up 10%, 48-38 over Zakaria as this night continues to come in. More pulling in. Robitaille still with a 40-38 lead over Chafee. So Robitaille standing strong with 2% reporting.
And we have late breaking news now on the bond issues here in the state of Rhode Island with 1% reporting, 83% to 17% voting to reject to change the name of the state of Rhode Island. That's with 1% reporting. For question 2, it's been close. It was 50.1% to 49.9 earlier. Right now it's 52% to 48% in favor of question 2. Question 3 is also looked like it could be on the route to passage with 1% reporting. 69% in favor of question 3. That's transportation bonds. 31% oppose. And for the open space bonds, which deal primarily with the beach along Rocky Point and giving public access to that area, that looks like it may pass as well. 61% to 49%, though. Still too early to call any of those bond issues in the state of Rhode Island just yet.
In those mayor races we talked about earlier, Cranston, Johnston, Providence, all 0 votes counted at this point tonight. So those races, like we expected, are going to go fairly late into the night. We're going to take a quick break here. During this one, you're also going to see the Demon Sheep campaign video that got a lot of discussion as this race went on, and a reaction to that. And then you'll get our regular commercials as well. You're watching Anchor TV on Channel 3 here at Rhode Island College. You're also watching us live online at anchortv.org. Stay tuned for all those Rhode Island election results.
Purity, piety, are fiscal conservative leaders, men we admire, aspire to be. Wholesome, honorable, true believers. Men like Tom Campbell, who would never lead us astray, his pedestal so high.
Leaving but one way to fall. Tom Campbell, fiscal genius. Who would remember that as the governor's chief budget officer, Campbell was the architect of our disastrous 2005 budget? A budget so bloated with increased ongoing spending commitments and borrowing that it literally set the stage for the recent decline of California. That's fiscally conservative, Tom? Who would remember that was the Tom Campbell budget? We would. A budget about which the respected nonpartisan California Legislative Analyst Office wrote, multi-billion-dollar operating deficits will persist, even in the best of times. And Tom, while proclaiming your newfound fiscal conservatism, you seem to have forgotten that you supported last year's budget, saying its tax increases were the right thing to do. Your current brilliant solution to California's budget mess is to raise our gas tax, already the highest in the country, by 32 cents a gallon. Could there be a worse solution? Is that fiscally conservative, Tom? And sadly, we're just getting started. You also campaigned for a ballot measure last spring that would have extended a supposedly temporary hike in the sales tax, the income tax, and the vehicle license fees for another 2 years. At the end of the day, that's another $16 billion in new taxes you supported, Tom. When in Congress, you supported a tax on the internet, and you were publicly critical of the Bush tax cuts. I suppose we should not be surprised then, Tom, that you are the only Republican candidate to refuse to sign the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, no matter what office you were running for that particular week. Tom Campbell, is he what he tells us? Or is he what he's become over the years? A FCINO, fiscal conservative in name only. A wolf in sheep's clothing. A man who literally helped put the state of California on the path to bankruptcy and higher taxes. Fiscal conservative? Or just another same old tale of tax and spend, authored by a career politician who helped guide us into this fiscal mess in the first place?
All right, now that last ad was for Carly Fiorina's Senate run during the primary races in California. It was against her opponent, Tom Campbell, and it was certainly an interesting one.
That ad, despite the fact that it was overly dramatic, was highly effective. In terms of political ads, they usually run between 30 seconds to a minute and a half. This one was about 3.5 minutes long, and the ad was also directed at her opponent instead of being a general statement about the issues in the campaign. It's also kind of scary, I mean, if you think about it. The first time I saw this ad and the crazy demon sheep at the end of it popping out at me, yeah, I totally screamed like a girl.
I couldn't decide whether to be afraid or to laugh.
Yeah.
That man in a wolf costume was interesting.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. see this pizza? And look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
And we are back here live for Anchor TV. More and more results are coming in. The Senate race in Missouri, which I'm sure everyone in Rhode Island was following very closely. Roy Blunt, the Republican candidate, has won that race. So at this hour, the Republicans have picked up 3. They're still down 47-39 total, but quite a few seats to still come in. The governor's race in Kansas, I'm sure you also all were begging to know. Sam Brownback will hold on to his seat in Kansas. Rhode Island, results are starting to come in from the city of Providence slowly, but they are coming in. So we can now tell you the bond issue is back up, 52-48, still holding on there. Angel Tavares with 2% reporting, as we already predicted, huge lead. He is projected to win. It has closed the races in the House of Representatives. Langevin's lead is still at 12%. Cicilline expands his lead to 7%. He was just trailing before Providence started to come in. So the city he's represented, although controversially at time within the city, he's had a lot of trouble with a lot of different public unions, still has come out strong for him today, and he has an early lead.
Andrew Cuomo, just the official projected winner now, the governor of New York, the Democrat, taking the reins of the highest office in the state of New York. And of course, we're getting a lot of other gubernatorial races being called now throughout the East Coast and even to the Midwest now, as the next round of poll closures is coming up in about 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes, the biggest poll closing certainly throughout the country would have to be Nevada, as we will be covering throughout the rest of the night. Can Harry Reid, the head of the Democratic Senate, can he hold on? It looks like his party will hold on, but will he still be able to lead that party when the night is over? We do not know. So we're going to try to follow that race for you as closely as we can as the night continues. Early results are all over the place around the country, and we're trying to bring you the most up-to-the-minute results we can. So as they continue to come in, Caprio is now gaining votes strongly in Rhode Island with 17% reporting. He is closed.
But with 17% reporting, John Robitaille still holding on to a 3-point lead over Lincoln Chafee. Robitaille at 34% and Chafee at 31%. So Chafee actually losing votes to Caprio here, who now has 27% with 17% reporting.
Yeah, the race for governor, as we anticipated, is closing to be very tight. It is going to be a race to watch all night long. It is 34 for Robitaille, actually 40 for Robitaille, 39 for Chafee, 13 for Caprio. Those results are a little old. We even have instant stuff for you right now of 34, 31, 27, Robitaille, Chafee, Caprio. So that race will be tight throughout the night tonight. We are now in a place where we can call District 2. With 32% reporting, Langevin has a 17% lead over Zakaria. So Langevin will be returning to Washington, D.C. We can now project Langevin is the winner of his seat. We can also now project Deval Patrick is the winner of the governor of Massachusetts. He will retain his seat in a very tight race. He was able to hold on. He currently has a 9% lead over Deval Patrick, over Charlie Baker with 55% in, and a lot of Democratic districts still to report. So Deval Patrick on his way to a 10% or more victory tonight.
Looking at the Rhode Island College graduates who are in this race, the Rhode Island College community members who are running for office here tonight. Of course, James Langevin going back to Washington to represent the 2nd Congressional District, taking out much of the northern, western, and southwestern part of the state of Rhode Island. But there are other Rhode Island College graduates on the ballot here tonight. Robert Healy facing off against Lieutenant Governor Roberts. That race still too close to call at this hour. Alan Fung, mayor of Cranston, running for re-election. Fung, the Republican, running for re-election for the 2-year term against Richard Tomlins, the Democrat. That race still too close to call as well. And Nicole Bentley, recent Rhode Island College student running for state senator in the town of Johnston, just off the campus here at Rhode Island College. He's running as an independent in a wide-reaching race, one of 5 candidates. Of course, Frank Lombardo, the Democrat, is the front runner there. We'll have results on all these races as they come in here on Anchor TV.
We can actually now call a couple more races for you. Peter Kilmartin has come out of an early hole tonight to Whalen to gain a 20-point lead already with 17% reporting. Peter Kilmartin is the Attorney General for the state of Rhode Island. Ralph Mollis has climbed out of that early hole. He has a 5% lead, but that race still too close to call. Elizabeth Roberts, you talked about Robert Healy. Elizabeth Roberts has opened a 20% lead. So he has a very large lead over Robert Healy now. Can he close that gap as the night goes on? Will certainly be something we watch. In the Johnston race, the Democrat, Paulincia, has the early lead, but that is another one that we have to follow. The bond issue for higher education, still in the lead for that is yes. So still looking strong there. Cicilline continues to hold on. Robitaille is still winning, but his base of vote was definitely that central part of the state, a more conservative part of the state. He has not won any other districts. If you look north or south of that as far as the counties go, he is losing pretty strongly to Chafee, and even more so in the eastern part of the state. So as more of these results come in, Chafee's campaign gaining strength. The more interesting story, though, would have to be at this point, Caprio continuing to trail behind after he led early and really had been in that back-and-forth race with
And that's where Robitaille's real chance of winning this race lies. Republicans in the state typically don't do well. We've seen it now as more numbers come in. Republicans are falling behind their Democratic opponents in many other races, but here we're not seeing it. Why? Because of much of the Democratic vote, it seems, has been split between Chafee and Caprio. Originally, we thought much of the Republican vote would be split between the two candidates, and that is now changing rapidly.
It is certainly going to be a race to follow as the night goes on. We're going to try to get you more and more results. You can see it's gotten more important. Our results have gone from the bottom third of your screen to your whole screen. That means it's getting important as the night goes on, so stick with us. We're going to take a very short 1-minute commercial break, so after these quick messages, we will be right back.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Welcome back to Anchor TV, live coverage of election 2010. These results are still coming in very quickly. McGovern's lead in District 3 of Mass continues to expand. We're actually just getting more results as we go.
Yeah, we've got results now coming in from Kingston, where, let's see.
Question 2 seems to be doing very well with 57.3% of the vote. We really want to track that Kingston and that Providence area, especially on question 2, to see how professors and students turned out to vote. You heard a lot on campus today about voting. When you went to class, you saw a lot of those I voted stickers. A lot on Facebook, who has now crossed 10 million voters, have said that they voted on Facebook. So that young vote will certainly be key to question 2 as the night goes on.
Of course, looking at the actual gubernatorial race in Kingston from, of course, a stronghold for University of Rhode Island students, you'd figured they might be going more for the Democrat or even for the independent Chafee. Even there, the Republican Robitaille has a lead, 40.7% to 37.5%.
Yeah, it has certainly been a very close race. Robitaille still holding on to a 300-vote lead. So this race all throughout the night is going to be very close. If we can even be with you when it gets called, we're going to try. But like we said, there's really no way to tell what will go on. Although Robitaille's lead has been eaten into a little, it's very tough to track. In Massachusetts, we have already said Deval Patrick will win. There's several other very close races there. It looks like all of the Democratic congressional candidates will win. Issue 1, to eliminate the sales tax, its lead is now up to 4 points, so we will continue to track that as the night goes on. Do you have any other updates?
Robitaille, 34%, Chafee, 31% still at the latest count. Question 1 on alcohol, whether or not it should be taxed in Massachusetts, whether or not that tax should be lifted. Yes, it should be lifted, say 52% of voters in Massachusetts. No, say 48%. That is with nearly 60%, that's 59% of precincts reporting. Deval Patrick, 50% to Baker's 41% for the gubernatorial race in Massachusetts as well. Looks like the incumbent Democrat will likely hold on there.
It will certainly be an interesting race to follow throughout the night. It is very, very close, so we will continue to watch that as the night goes on. Both in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, those ballot questions seem to be very, very close. We are once again, I know we just got back to you, going to take a very quick 1-minute break, but when we get back after this break, we are going to be joined by Michelle, who has been covering our national races for us all night, and she's going to brief us on those national races. After that, we'll come back to Rhode Island. So stick with Anchor TV for all your election 2010 coverage.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Joining us now is Michelle Leachman, our national election coverage leader tonight, really focusing on all of those national races that we're sure you want to hear about here in Rhode Island. Early on, we've talked about how the Republicans are gaining seats in the House, and we've projected them to win. What have you seen so far in those races?
Well, we saw that it was evening out there for a while. Republicans were leading, and then all of a sudden they took a jump, and Republicans are up and they've got it.
Yeah, they've pretty much won the House. As of right now, I know you were just saying during the break, they've gained 12 seats already, the Republican Party. A lot of those seats in the Midwest and the South. So as the night continues to go on, what do you think they need to do to continue to gain seats? What issues seem to be resonating with voters?
Actually, I'm not for sure.
Yes, I know we were talking during the break a lot about the economy and jobs. Do you think that those issues will go as strong here in the North as they have in the South? We've heard a lot about jobs. Here in the Rhode Island races, Ken Block ran a lot on it, but those issues haven't seemed to work as well with the national races in this area, and we're about ready to project the other ones. As Cicilline continues to gain, if you had to guess, and we put you on the spot, we've already projected the other race with Langevin. Do you think Cicilline will be able to hold on? If you had to take a quick guess, Cicilline Laughlin.
I do.
You do. So she's trying to keep track of those congressional races around the country for us, and it's great to have her on. She's probably going to join us again in another 30 minutes with another update on those national races. So thank you a lot, Michelle, for coming on. As she leaves, we have to kind of let her go to cover more of these national races. It's 10 o'clock. Polls have closed. John McCain, the projected Senate winner in Arizona, we can already call that. But the tough race to watch on the West Coast will certainly be in Nevada. So, Michelle, if you can kind of track that Nevada race for us and get back to us, that would be great. Thanks a lot for joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
So, Nick, we also are getting more and more Rhode Island results in as the night goes on, and it looks like it's starting to turn a little bit more towards Chafee, but Robitaille very strongly holding his lead as the night goes on.
Well, you could tell Robitaille, who was sort of hanging back in third place behind Caprio, behind Chafee for much of the race, he made that real big leap in the last week. And when a candidate does that, that means that the voters' minds have suddenly changed. They've changed for a particular reason. In this state, we've had a tradition now, the last 16 years, that's 4 consecutive gubernatorial elections, of putting a governor in the high office while all, if not the majority, of the other general officers in the state, including the vast majority of the General Assembly, have been Democrats. Why has that been? Well, sometimes voters want that check and balance. They want to have a Republican governor there with veto power. Even though the General Assembly can sometimes override that veto, it's still an important check and balance to have. Maybe these residents of Rhode Island are afraid to have a Democrat in every single general office in the state. That could be an explanation why Don Carcieri was a governor for the last 8 years, why Lincoln Almond was governor for 8 years prior to that. Will that be helping John Robitaille? Will the people of Rhode Island say, you know what, we still want a Republican governor, even if we're going to put Democrats in the rest of the high officers in the state of Rhode Island?
Very interesting. When you go town by town, early on tonight, Robitaille is actually tying 36% each with Chafee in areas like East Providence that we kind of expected to go pretty strongly for either Chafee or possibly Caprio, and it's really been a tough race there. Gloucester, big for Robitaille. Jamestown, very big for Chafee. So as more and more of these towns come in, we can track them throughout the night. Little Compton, currently Chafee. Lincoln, very strong for Robitaille. Towns like Narragansett, Providence, we really don't have enough data to even go over with you as of right now. Same with Kingston, North Providence, North Smithfield. Pawtucket early on has gone Chafee, and Richmond has gone Robitaille.
One thing that we haven't really discussed too much here so far is the effect of the straight ticket vote. Of course, it's at the top of the ballot. Voter just needs to mark that one mark, either Democrat, Republican, and this year for the first time, moderate, and that makes every single election on the ballot a straight ticket vote. Now, what that means is they essentially don't have to vote in the elections. All Democrats will be elected. In a race without Democrats, well, they're essentially voting for no one. Now, because of the problems with that, associated with that, there's been a campaign this year to eliminate the straight ticket option from the ballot. That campaign wasn't successful. It's still on there. It helps Democrats immensely in the state, of course, where the majority of those affiliated voters are affiliated with the Democratic Party. It also helps Republicans. Who does it not help? It does not help Lincoln Chafee.
Yeah, it certainly will be a battle that he has to fight all night long. Can he overcome that straight ticket vote that's been so big over the history of Rhode Island in deciding the elections here? So can he overtake that and still hold on to win, even with the very big early returns that he was having, will be something we have to track all night long, as that race has certainly tightened up. As tight as any of the races that we're tracking here in Rhode Island tonight, the governor's race will certainly be one to follow as the night goes on.
Ralph Mollins, a 53 to 47% lead now over Catherine Terry Taylor, the candidate for Secretary of State. Of course, Taylor, former Chafee aide, in that race in which they've been neck and neck in much of the polling data in the last couple of weeks. Mollins, not the most popular Secretary of State, of course, former mayor of North Providence, but he looks like he could hold that one out. Again, that's just with 17% of precincts reporting. That could change dramatically as we go forward as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of races that are up in the air right now. Still the major issue, as we've talked about before, the House has been taken by the Republican Party. The Republicans have gained the House. The Senate still much in the balance tonight. Cicilline with a 7% vote on his House seat. It looks early on like the Democrats will be able to hold their House seats here in Rhode Island. Nancy Pelosi, speaking now out on the West Coast, her race not yet completely decided, although she is looking strong early on.
55 precincts counted now, looking at question 1 in Massachusetts. 52% say yes, 48% no. That's the question to eliminate the alcohol tax. Deval Patrick has been declared the winner in Massachusetts. That race has been called as he, with 60% of the vote, has the lead.
So certainly more and more results will be continuing to come in. We're going to try to keep you up to date the best we can. One of the other interesting areas that we're going to talk about once we get more to the West Coast will certainly be Barbara Boxer's race in the Senate race in California. It's been a very tough race. She was viewed as very strong early on, although her support has waned. To that effect, a lot was said about the commercials that were run out there. So we're now going to play for you one of the Barbara Boxer commercials. This is called the inflated head commercial, along with a little reaction, and then a normal commercial break. For Anchor TV, this is Cameron Spalding, Nick Lima. Stick with us. We're going to have more live results after this video of the Barbara Boxer campaign commercial and our other general commercial breaks.
Okay, and the final ad that we will show you tonight. Okay, and the final ad that we... Okay, and the final ad that we will show you tonight is also by Carly Fiorina. It is her ad against her opponent, Barbara Boxer, who has been in the California Senate for quite a long time. She is a Democrat. This ad speaks for itself. It is by far the most ridiculous ad of this election year, and we shall see if it was as effective as her team-in-chief ad.
No one knows from whence it came. Legend goes that it began innocently enough. Local politics. The warm bask of attention. The occasional flicker of a television light. It was a heady time. But then, it grew. It wanted more. Without benefit of foresight, we sent Barbara Boxer to the Senate, where she took root for the next long 18 years, basking in the glow, becoming more and more bitterly partisan, while she became shockingly less and less effective. Soon, her elitist self-image grew so that it overwhelmed the capital and drifted west. Westward, to tell us all how to live our lives. Why our hard-earned money should go to her to spend. She quit working for us and worked only for herself. Raising job-killing taxes, time and time again. While she tells us she's the friend of the taxpayer.
I like to cut taxes for the middle class.
But she's voted to raise taxes on things like Social Security benefits and gasoline. And voted 11 times against removing the marriage penalty tax. Proclaiming her cap-and-trade bill would clean the environment. Indifferent that it would take already painful jobless numbers and make them dramatically worse.
That's where you'll have a little bit of an increase in electricity prices.
Even President Obama says electricity rates will skyrocket. And the Wall Street Journal says it is likely to be the biggest tax increase in American history. Proclaiming that her vote for the massive spending bailouts actually stimulated the economy, instead of just dumping our money down a dark, dark hole.
To stimulate the economy, you do increase government spending.
But since this stimulus, unemployment in California has climbed to over 12%, the worst since the end of the Great Depression. Our national debt is now over $12 trillion. Homegrown terrorists opening fire and killing soldiers on an American military base. Foreign terrorists trying to blow up an American airplane on Christmas Day. And what does Barbara Boxer see as a national security threat?
One of the very important national security issues we face, frankly, is climate change.
What? Preaching her liberal, partisan, elitist ways on every issue, though hardly any on either side of the aisle agreed. She talked and talked and got nothing done.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Live coverage of Decision 2010. It's the election here in the state of Rhode Island, across the country, the midterm elections, and we've had some exciting contests here tonight. We've had some upsets, and of course the numbers are still rolling in. Now with 70% of precincts reporting here in the state of Rhode Island, Cameron Spaulding will give us a rundown of all the statewide offices. Cameron.
As those numbers continue to come in, it has certainly been very interesting tonight. In that District 1 race in Congress, Cicilline versus Laughlin, Cicilline has a 49-45% lead here early on. So it looks like Cicilline, it's not really even early on. With 70% reporting, his lead of 5,000 votes looks very strong and will be tough to overcome, especially when the main part of the state we are still waiting on is the city of Providence, who has not reported strong at all early on. Only 40% of the city of Providence has been counted. So Cicilline looking strong.
Even so, at this point, it is the most hotly contested congressional seat in years here in Rhode Island, only a 4% margin with this many precincts reporting, separating the leading candidates.
Langevin, who we've already called his race for him, leads 59-33 over Zakaria. So Langevin, as projected here by Anchor TV, will win his seat back and will be going back to Washington, as Langevin looks very strong over Zakaria tonight. We then move on to the governor's race. In the governor's race, Robitaille with a lead still. It is 35-34, his lead, Robitaille over Chafee. Caprio then with 23% behind them. A very, very tight race there. Lieutenant Governor, it seems like the Cool Moose Party will be having kind of a cool night, not a very warm one for them. Healy has quickly fallen away, 55-39%, 38%. He is trailing there. Secretary of State, Mollis's lead. This race has gone back and forth all night long. It is 50-50. The lead is gone. Mollis and Taylor tied 50-50. Some have it 50-49. Very, very close race there. Attorney General we've already called, but Kilmartin with a very large lead there, 43-30%. He looks strong to win. The Treasurer's race, King had an early lead. That lead has evaporated. Raimondo back in the lead, 61-39% there. On the bond issues, Question 1, as we projected, will fail. Question 2, still too close to call, but certainly has garnered a much larger lead, a lead of 16,000 votes, 54-46% in favor of that. The other two bids, both for transportation bonds in open spaces, we can now project will win both of those bond issues. So higher education still in the balance. Congressional District 1 still very much up for grabs. And the complete, no one in the state could even think to project it race right now. Has to be the governor's race. Robitaille still holding on to a lead, but Chafee has gained a lot lately. Caprio still holding on strong. The sub-story there, Block, with his 6.6%, some would call it 7, that he has right now, he's going to maintain his party as a statewide party.
Block nearly 7% in the for the moderate party, certainly a little more than they anticipated. They were a little bit afraid if they couldn't get that 5%. Well, this new fledgling party here in the state of Rhode Island, hold on. Of course, there are other moderates running in General Assembly races throughout the state, but this is the real story right now. Robitaille, Chafee battling out for governor. Caprio not far behind. This is what we've been predicting all along. Chafee's been the front runner, but right now Robitaille is still clinging to a lead. Also got some word in on some of the mayoral races in the state of Rhode Island. Scott Avedisian will hold on to the mayoralship of Warwick, the very popular Republican mayor there, an 82% margin of vote over his opponent. Policina in Johnston, of course, which borders Rhode Island College's campus. 65% of the vote likely will hold on to his seat, the incumbent there. And Angel Tavares, an 89% lead over independent candidate, former Republican Jonathan Scott, who was a two-time congressional opponent against Patrick Kennedy in the District 1 seat. And in past years, Jonathan Scott, 11% of the vote in that race. Angel Tavares will certainly be the next mayor of the city of Providence.
Yeah, it has been an interesting night. Results are pouring in throughout the country. And the last set of polls that closed at 10 certainly playing a part in that. Other results across the area in Massachusetts. We can now officially declare a few more races in Massachusetts and clear that state up. The Democrats will hold on to every one of their seats in Massachusetts. All 10 congressional districts in Mass will stay with the Democrats. Deval Patrick, we have already declared the winner. The sales tax ballot initiative, still very, very close. With 70% reporting, it is just barely up right now. In the Secretary of State, Galvin will win in Massachusetts. Coakley will win in the race for Attorney General. In the Treasurer's race, Grossman will win there as well. So Democrats right now are on track for a clean sweep in the state of Massachusetts. So what other races do you see as being very important tonight? We also, of course, have talked about the Harry Reid race, still too close to call.
Yeah, looking at some of the numbers coming in nationally, as again, at 10:15 now, we're starting at numbers to filter in from the Midwest region. Polls are closing out there. Polls will be still closing on the West Coast in the next hour or so. As we get more reports from out there, we'll try to bring them to you as long as we can continue here on Anchor TV, because that's the big national story. The Republicans taking back control of the House of Representatives here tonight. The GOP certainly also gaining a couple of seats in the Senate, tipping the balance of power there. How's that going to affect the Barack Obama administration in the final 2 years of his first term as president? We're going to see some far-reaching effects from this midterm election. We really can't even predict where things could go from here tonight.
Yeah, we still have no votes reporting right now in Nevada, so we still cannot even start to talk about that very hotly contested Harry Reid race. So that will certainly be one to watch. We've talked a lot about these parties that the candidates are having. Just a quick rundown on where all those candidates are. The Democrats are at the Biltmore. That includes congressional candidates David Cicilline, the gubernatorial candidate Frank Caprio, Secretary of State Maulis, Elizabeth Roberts in the lieutenant governor's race, all at the Biltmore in downtown Providence. Angel Tavares, the party is certainly on there. He is at the very popular concert venue Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel in downtown, is where Angel Tavares will be tonight. The Republican Party is set up at the Crown Plaza in Warwick, where most of them are, including Robitaille, Catherine Taylor, and a few other Republicans there. John Laughlin is the Republican that has broken away from that. He is at the Marriott in downtown Providence, is where Joe Laughlin's party will be tonight, John Laughlin. And the Lincoln Chafee party will be in Warwick at the Providence Airport Motel. So he's down there at the Sheridan. And Ken Block, the moderate party, is at the Westin in Providence tonight. So that is where everyone is meeting. Like we said, we have Hayden James will be providing us live information back once speeches begin at the Biltmore in Providence. And from the Chafee campaign, we have Andrew Augustus there live, ready to report in when more information becomes available there. Elizabeth Roberts' lead continues to build in her race. What other information do you have for us, Nick, about the national race?
Nothing new to report now in the national race. Still looking at perhaps a 41-seat advantage for the GOP in the House of Representatives. Again, plus 3 Senate seats. That's what many national news sources, including the Associated Press, are projecting at the moment. Going back to the governor's race, it's still very tight right now. John Robitaille, a 1% lead over Lincoln Chafee. Robitaille at 35%, Chafee at 34%, and Caprio is certainly falling behind at 24%. Unlikely to see him gaining much ground as we move forward now.
Yeah, it really is going to be tough for him. I mean, Providence looked strong for him, but it's also very strong for Chafee. So really that's going to be a split and a wash there. Caprio's chances to be the next governor look to be slim, to more likely than that, none. Caprio is most likely eliminated from this race. It is down to Robitaille and Chafee. That's who if you turn on all the national broadcasts, you're going to see they are now covering this race as a tight race. MSNBC doing a story on it right as we speak. Robitaille and Chafee, neck and neck as the night goes on. So that will have to be a race that we will continue to follow all night long, as it's really too early to declare anything there, but we're going to have to stay with it. Joining us soon will be Rick Enos, the news director from WXIN. He's going to try to go over a few of these races with us. But until we get to that, we're going to take a short 1-minute commercial break, so stick right with us. This is Anchor TV, live on Channel 3, live election 2010 coverage.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. See this pizza? And look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call them up, 401-228-8188. 8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
From Anchor TV here in the Student Union Ballroom of what is becoming a very tight election night between the Republicans and Democrats, mainly on that governor's race.
Yeah, looking right now in the governor's race, John Robitaille has actually been the front runner here tonight after Chafee was projected to have the early leads. Robitaille came out strong at first. He's seen his lead dwindle a little bit, and some sources now saying that Lincoln Chafee has taken a 0.2 percentage race. We're looking to confirm that Chafee has taken a 0.2 percentage lead. That will be the first time tonight that's happened. But again, Robitaille trying to hold on to the majority right now. Frank Caprio having a deep minority at just 24% of the vote. Of course, it's going to be a plurality that wins this election with three major candidates in. Ken Blanc, the moderate, holding strongly around 6 or 7%. But it's Robitaille right now with about 35% of the vote. Chafee also with near 35% of the vote. It's really neck and neck. It's between these two candidates going forward as we continue here throughout the night. Caprio sort of a non-issue at this point. It's between Chafee, it's between Robitaille, the Republican and the Independent going at it here for the governorship of Rhode Island. And we're going to follow this right through to its conclusion. It could be neck and neck, though, for quite some time still to come.
Yeah, it certainly is a very close race. Chafee and Robitaille really fighting this one out to the end. Chafee with a very slim lead now, but there is still a long way to go tonight. The Republican Party, though, in the House, like we've talked about, now has to establish a kind of an order of command. They're going to have to fit this new Tea Party movement into their party throughout the rest of the year, as they're now going to be a solid part of it with tonight's election results. So how do you feel like the Tea Party will affect the Republican Party on a nationwide scale?
Well, of course, here locally, we haven't seen much impact from the Tea Party, but nationally, for the Tea Party to pick up a couple of seats in Congress, that's a pretty big thing, because you really haven't seen a true impact from a third party. Even though the Tea Party primarily aligns itself with Republicans, they're very independently minded. They're not going to go lockstep with the platform of the Republican Party. They're still going to make waves. They're still going to have a significant impact. And if you see them pick up some seats in this election, imagine what they could potentially do in the next election with a presidential election coming up in 2 years now.
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting to follow. On that side, it's been a story that a lot of people have picked up and begun covering recently, is who is this a statement about? Is this election a statement about the Obama administration? Is this election a statement about the Democratic Congress led by Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid? Harry Reid in that very close race. That's the side most people are going to now, as Obama's approval ratings are higher now than Bush's were anytime after 2002, and higher than a lot of the early part of Clinton's election and all of Bush Sr.'s term. So the real question will be, as we move forward, is this a statement about Barack Obama or a statement about Congress? And we're really going to have to take the next few months to find that out. Also, as far as the Tea Party goes, a lot of deals have been made to get that Tea Party on track with the Republican Party. A lot of discussion about a vote to repeal the Health Care Act, although it looks like the Republicans do not have the votes to do that in either the House or the Senate after tonight, because not every Republican is on board with that motion. So if they can't do that, what happens then? Will Boehner even put that up to vote? We're going to have to watch that throughout the night. We're now hearing that Robitaille has reclaimed the lead. He is up 1,000 votes over Lincoln Chafee. It is still within a percentage point. We're going to be watching that race all night long. Ken Block up to 7%. It looks like he will be holding on to his party.
And this is with 71% of precincts reporting, not just 29% left to go. And anything could happen here as we move forward. It's going to be key to look at what precincts we go towards, what precincts are left to report. Elizabeth Roberts, 55% to 38% lead over Robert Healey in Lieutenant Governor's race. Also receiving word now, Tom Hodgson, Sheriff of Bristol County, Massachusetts, long time incumbent there, 46% to 43% for his opponent. He will likely hold on to his sheriffship in Bristol County. He's been a perennial candidate and popular there.
We can now call a few more races. You mentioned the lieutenant governor race. Elizabeth Roberts will be the next lieutenant governor of the state of Rhode Island. Healey's campaign coming up short. He's currently trailing by almost 40,000 votes with 86% of the state reporting.
That's just insurmountable at this point with the number of precincts reporting. Lieutenant Governor Roberts elected 4 years ago to be re-elected as Lieutenant Governor of the state of Rhode Island, will work under a new administration. Could be Robitaille, could be Chafee as we go forward.
Chafee, we just talked about that lead for Robitaille. He has completely erased that. He is now up 5,000 votes and 1.5% over Robitaille. He has closed very strongly and will be the closing in on that governorship race as more and more results come in. We just saw the early claim by Roberts. She is now taking the stage to accept her victory. It'll be a question of when they can wake Healy up, give him a cup of soup over at the diner, and tell him that he has lost. But it looks like she will hold on to her seat, although it was pretty close at times. In the end, she definitely will be able to hold on to that seat.
Bad news for the Out with Bob party. Bob Venturini, the public access host, not faring so well in this election. He's about 7% of the vote at the last check.
Yeah, he has certainly fallen behind. Angel Tavares, like we said, has already been declared the winner and is looking very strong as well. 89% now reporting, and the lead has expanded again for Lincoln Chafee. He is now up a full 2 percentage points over Robitaille. Caprio has slipped to 22% of the vote, so Caprio definitely out of this race, as we discussed earlier. And Cicilline's lead continues to grow. It is up to 6% now over Laughlin with 86% reporting. It looks like Cicilline will hold on, but we are not yet able to call that race either. Another race that we cannot yet call is Ralph Malus, whose lead is only 1,800 votes over Taylor as that election continues to move on. We've already told you Kilmartin is the Attorney General. Raimondo will win the General Treasurership. The question 1 to change the name and remove Providence Plantations has certainly failed here tonight. Question 3 and 4, both bond issues, have passed. We are on the edge. Within the next probably 10 minutes, we will be able to declare a final decision on question 2 to approve or reject. As of right now, there is a 30,000 vote majority for approving. So as of right now, question 2 is passing. It looks like that Art Center, Chemistry Center project will go forward. And we are also now getting video from the Chafee campaign. The crowd looking very pleased with tonight. Andrew Augustus, who is our reporter there, is able to report that it is definitely starting to feel like a party in Warwick. Chafee's campaign has not only closed their deficit, but has now taken a pretty strong lead when you look at the area still to report. Lincoln Chafee definitely starting to look like the next governor.
Recapping the bond issues and referendum questions here in the state of Rhode Island. Just heard them a moment ago. We've already called 3 of them. 79% to 21% for question 1, the issue of whether or not to change the name of the state of Rhode Island. The state of Rhode Island's name will remain the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. Question 2, still too close to call. That is to build a new chemistry building at the University of Rhode Island and renovate the Art Center here at Rhode Island College. $78 million bond initiative, 54% to 46%. 72 to 28% for question 3, though, the transportation bonds, that will pass by a wide margin. Of course, there's federal government matching funds that go along with that as well. And the open space bonds that deal primarily with the Rocky Point Park, that former area, and the coastline access there, 63% to 37%. Question 4 will pass here tonight.
So certainly a lot of results are coming in all across the country. More and more districts are reporting. And we're trying to get you also an update on some of those West Coast important races that we've talked about, like Harry Reid, but we just can't get the numbers yet. But as we do, you can be sure that Anchor TV will have all of that information for you. We promised you we would stay with you until we could call out of these races, and we have certainly done that. We expected to be off the air a half an hour ago, but we just cannot be with so many races up in the air right now. So we're going to try to stay with you throughout the night until we get to a situation where we can call a few more of these races at least. Many candidates are now around Rhode Island starting to take the podium to either accept victory or concede defeat, as Rhode Island's situation is starting to become very clear. What else do you see in these races around the state and the country?
Kernan King will lose his bid to Gina Raimondo for the general treasurer seat. Raimondo is certainly in the lead by a wide margin at this point. Looking elsewhere around the state of Rhode Island, we have Policina will be holding on to his mayoralship in the town of Johnston. The city of Cranston, Alan Fung look, the Republican incumbent looking to take his second two-year term. Of course, Fung became the first Asian American to hold a mayoralship in the state of Rhode Island when he won in Cranston 2 years ago. His term will be renewed. And some bond issues going on in Cranston. Not bond issues, rather referendum questions about the charter in Cranston and whether or not some major changes should be made there regarding collective bargaining agreements, whether or not they should be approved by the school committee and teachers' contracts should be approved also by the town council. Those questions are up for to be answered tonight by the residents of Cranston, including another important one. That's to change the next election for mayor of Cranston 2 years from now from a 2-year to a 4-year term.
Yeah, and actually on those questions, we can give you some results. On every question that the city of Cranston has put up, almost everyone can be completely called in the affirmative. There was a series of questions, actually 6 of them. They all look like they will pass, many of them very strongly, especially question 9 with 78% of the vote going in its favor. So most of the questions will pass in Cranston tonight. Those questions that you were just talking about look very strong in the affirmative. In South Carolina, Nikki Haley, a race that you heard a lot about, that governor race. After replacing the disgraced former governor, Haley will win. It was discussed early on a lot about her personal life. Her sex life was brought into that race. It was very ugly, classic, ugly, dirty politics, but it looks like she will win that race for the Republican Party.
It's now appearing that Paulette Hamilton will retain the town administratorship of the town of North Smithfield. We're starting to get some more of these local races coming in, be they town administrators, town city council races, school committee, and of course, we haven't really heard much from the General Assembly here in Rhode Island. How the Republicans fared here. They haven't fared so well over the last few years. They've lost seats, particularly in the last election. Can they gain any of those back? And they've had a deep, deep minority now for some time. There are some moderate candidates in the ticket too. Will they be successful against their Democratic and Republican opponents?
We're going to try to bring you updates on that as soon as we can, going around the state on those races. But they're just too early, a lot of them, to call. A lot of areas like Barrington, no one has reported. Not one of the precincts in Barrington has even reported yet.
That's a very strong
tonight.
Republican district.
It really is. So what kind of an effect will that have on some of these statewide races and, of course, those other races as well? In the city right here of Providence, we can actually call a few races now of how they're going to go. One right by the school over more towards the PC area was the race between Mary Ellen Goodwin, the endorsed Democrat, and Richard Corso. Goodwin will retain her seat in the state Senate, the Democrat, 77 to 22%. Other state Senate races around the city of Providence have all gone Democrat. There is not a single Republican that has won in the city on both the Senate and the issues of the General Assembly. Every council ward seat has also gone Democrat tonight, many of them unchallenged, but they also have gone that way. An interesting note, when you talk about higher education, Bond 1 with the colleges, mainly Rhode Island College, in the city, obviously turning out very strongly for their bond issue, as 71% of the city of Providence has voted in favor of the still in doubt question 2 tonight. So certainly professors that live in the city and many students came out very strong today to vote in favor of that initiative.
Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Roberts is the projected winner, of course. We mentioned that over Bob Haley just a few moments ago. Bob Venturini did garner 7% of the vote, though, with his Our Bob party. 50-50, it's split right now. Only about 400 votes separating Ralph Mollis and Catherine Taylor.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting races still out there tonight. I think Mollis's will probably be the latest to be called. Chafee's still not in a position where he can be called the next governor of Rhode Island, but it certainly is starting to look very good for him. But Mollis is in a dead heat with Catherine Terry Taylor. In that race, we might not know the answer of till early in the morning tomorrow. With a lot of those very close races, it will be like that. But we're not going to know a lot of things till tomorrow morning, as you have to think about it this way. We are still 2.5 hours away from the last polls in the country closing. Alaska does not close till 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there are still hours of election coverage to go around the state. But we are very close to being able to call just about every race for you as far as the Rhode Island districts go. We're expecting to call the rest of them pretty much within the next 15 to 20 minutes. So, Nick, as we look forward to calling those final races, What do you think are going to be the major issues as far as Rhode Island representatives take away from this election from what they've heard from the people?
Well, I mean, so far the message has been pretty clear. Rhode Islanders, in some areas, want more of the same. In some areas, they want a little bit of change. Right now, with the gubernatorial race, we have John Robitaille, who's never held elected office. He worked for a couple of years as the communications director for the Carcieri administration. He was a businessman and a former member of the U.S. Army prior to that. Robitaille, neck and neck with Lincoln Chafee. Of course, Chafee, the former mayor of Warwick, United States Senator. He was elected to his own term after serving the remainder of his father's term. And of course, his father, John Chafee, former U.S. Senator, governor of the state, and was Secretary of the Navy as well. Very famous, very prominent name here in Rhode Island. Has a name resonated with Lincoln Chafee here tonight in his race against Robitaille. Then you get Frank Caprio, the established Democrat, very popular general treasurer of the state, from a very popular political family. Of course, his father, the judge in court in Providence, also, of course, renowned for being the Board of Governors of Higher Education chairman. His brother, of course, is the state representative, was Frank Caprio, and of course his brother lost in the primary down in Narragansett. If the Caprio name isn't as strong as the Chafee name, we've clearly seen that here so far tonight with Caprio trailing by such a wide margin. What has hurt him? Was it the remarks he made last week, or was it really more than that? Was it people didn't really want to have a Democratic governor with so many other Democrats leading their races in statewide contests and, of course, in the General Assembly? The voters of Rhode Island recognize that they need to have some balance there at the top. Will that balance come from the independent Chafee? Will it come from the Republican Robitaille? All these questions will have to be answered as the night goes on.
You know, a number of senators, 8 total between the Republican and Democratic Party, have lost their seats tonight. 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. So it's very interesting to see that incumbent message of voting out incumbents has not just struck the Democratic Party, it has struck both parties tonight, with a number of Republicans also losing their seats. So this has certainly been an interesting night to watch. And those interesting races do not end for a while. We still have the Harry Reid race, Barbara Boxer's race in California, and what has developed into a complete mess over the last week in Alaska.
Lincoln Chafee now has a 2% lead over John Robitaille, 36 to 34%. And we've seen those numbers go back and forth a little bit. Perhaps some of those conservative voters and other precincts are now starting to come in are resonating more with Chafee. We'll have to see how those numbers play out, depending on which precincts are still yet to report. We're at about 71% of precincts reporting right now, but Chafee does have, according to the latest numbers,
actually, those numbers, if you're watching News Channel 10 tonight, you're doing yourself a great disservice. We are far ahead of them here at Rhode Island College. I can tell you, with 95% of the vote reporting, Cicilline is up 50 to 45%. Chafee is up 36 to 34. So these races are starting to spread out a little bit more. With 515 of the 537 precincts reporting, Chafee looks well on his way to being the next governor, and Cicilline looks well on his way to heading to Congress. So those are 2 races that are very easily to call within the next few moments. Malice has also still in that dogfight, only separated by 2,200 votes, his lead over Catherine Terry Taylor. So we are trying to keep you with the most up-to-date information. We're also hoping to be able to call a couple of those races for you in the next few moments. Apparently, as we're showing you right now, 101% of the people have voted in the great state of Rhode Island in the Ralph Malice race. That race, the numbers there were slightly wrong, is 50-49 in favor of Malice at this time. But those races can still change. We just want to remind you again, apparently 101% of the voters have voted here in Rhode Island.
Well, that doesn't seem too abnormal here for this day around. So should we take a break, step away, and see if we can get Rick Enos in here?
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Rick Enos, the news director of WXIN. So this is Anchor TV signing off for a quick moment commercial break.
Hi, I am Luscious Levi, see this pizza? Now look at your pizza. See this pizza? Now look at your pizza. You see this pizza? This is this guy's pizza. Call them up, 401-228-8188. They have the 3, 4, 5 pizza deals. Buy 2 medium pizzas, get $3 off. Buy 2 large pizzas, get $4 off. Buy 2 extra large pizzas, what do you get? $5 off. And just so you know, there's a free delivery to Rick. So call him up, 401-228-8188. You never seen a man like this. You're never gonna have pizza like this. Anchor TV, coming at you.
Before we're joined by Rick Enos, I'm going to quickly go over the races here in Rhode Island and give you up-to-the-minute results. Cicilline is still leading over Laughlin, but it is a very close race. Langevin has been called the winner over Zakaria. Langevin will be returning to Congress. Chafee has a lead over Robitaille. That race has been very close all night long, with Caprio trailing far behind. That race is down to the wire, although it looks like Chafee will be the next governor. Elizabeth Roberts has been called the victor over Robert Healy in that lieutenant governor race. Mollison Taylor still very close on the Secretary of State. Attorney General Kilmartin, as expected, has won. General Treasurer Raimondo has defeated King, the Democrats with the win there. On the ballot question initiatives, the name of Rhode Island will still be Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, as we have been able to call that race very early in the night. Almost 80% of the voters in the state of Rhode Island have come out against changing the name. The higher education bond we now can call will be Rhode Island College will get the Art Center. URI will get their chemistry building. Question 2 has come in the affirmative here in the state of Rhode Island. The last 2 questions, 3 and 4, also both in the affirmative. So all the bond issues passed, and the name change also passed as well, as far as Rhode Island goes. In the neighboring state of Massachusetts, we've talked about Deval Patrick winning there, and also every Democrat has won the representative seats in Congress in Massachusetts. Question 1, the alcohol tax, also looks on its way to pass, and it will be removed. But nationwide, we just gave you a lot of Democrats winning. You're not seeing that. We have already called. The House will turn over to the Republicans on a national level. In the Senate, we have already called for the Democrats, but it is going to be very close, within a seat or 2 either way. The race really will come down to races like Harry Reid and Barbara Boxer out in California to be the last 2 Senate seats that really decide who holds on to that. But joining us now for a little bit more analysis, a man that has been watching these races all very closely for WXIN's news department, is Rick Enos. Rick, what do you have to say for us?
Well, thanks for having us, Cam, Nick, Anchor TV. And I'm just ecstatic that Providence, the state of Rhode Island, can keep its name. Rhode Island of that is awesome.
It certainly came out strong.
As far as what's going on nationally, I am not surprised one bit. There is a very anti-incumbent sentiment right now, and it's the whole notion of kick the bums out seems to be reigning true here in America. Whereas you see the Tea Party, not necessarily the Tea Party candidates, but you have a Tea Party voters going out there and having those rallies, and they are paying off. It's a very fiscally conservative. It's not so much the social issues, really aren't as prevalent as one may think. It's all about money, letting us keep our money, and you see that here at the ballot box today.
Yeah, it certainly has been very clear to see that a lot of these issues have been very interesting. And it also has affected both parties, this anti-incumbent statement. We have seen tonight in the Senate, 8 incumbents have lost. Both 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans have lost their seats here tonight in the Senate. So incumbents have certainly struggled. Where the Republicans have made their gains in the Senate were in 3 open races. But those incumbents across the board, 8 incumbents in the Senate to lose in one night when only 21 seats are up is certainly a statement.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a very radical night, that's for sure. And even in Rhode Island, you see somebody like Robitaille, who it doesn't look like he's going to win. It looks like Chafee's going to pull it off. But who would have thought that it would have been when all said and done, between Robitaille and Chafee?
It really was a statement about the Democratic Party in the state of Rhode Island, the fact that they couldn't even stay in it.
What do you think was the key in this race? It is looking like now that Chafee might just barely eke past Robitaille by a percentage point or 2, unless Robitaille can make some very dramatic last-moment gains in this race. What do you think the key is here for Chafee, and how do you think he made this last-minute surge?
I mean, honestly, there's a few elements, I think, in why Chafee won this election. First of all, Chafee is by far more liberal than Caprio is. I think that Chafee's this idea that Chafee is very moderate, bipartisan type. I think by him having that I after his name, or rather in front of his name, is basically telling Rhode Islanders that he is, very he's rather moderate and not as liberal as one may as he actually is. So, I mean, that's a shock to me, and that's helped him identify with many Rhode Islanders. And also the youth vote has been key in getting Chafee elected. It seems like Rhode Island College across the board is supporting Lincoln Chafee, who's I mean, his ideas are not necessarily, in my opinion, are going to stimulate the economy based on the fact that he wants to raise taxes. But for some reason, he looks like he's our governor.
He's done very well with the college community. He also has done very well in a few other major key constituencies. He's done actually well with women. We're hearing from exit polls tonight, which was kind of a surprise. The female vote was expected to go to Caprio, and it doesn't look like it's going to quite turn out that way for him tonight. Caprio certainly has to be the shocker of how poorly he's done tonight. Caprio is going to bring home 22% of the vote when all is said and done. And actually, as we look at these votes, we are going to call a few more races for you right now in Rhode Island, which pretty much wraps up our coverage here tonight. We can now tell you that David Cicilline is the representative from District 1. That race can be called. Laughlin did not pull it out in the end. Langevin, as we said, has won. We can also declare Lincoln Chafee is the governor of the state of Rhode Island. He has won his election. He has spread it out here over the last few minutes. He's up now to an 8,000 vote lead. He has won. Lieutenant Governor Roberts. Mollus will hold on and win his election for Secretary of State. Ralph Mollus, in the closest election of the night, will still be the Secretary of State. Kilmartin has won, Raimondo has won, and all three ballot initiatives will pass. Most importantly to the Rhode Island college community, a race that once was considered very close for question 2, especially early on in the night and in the days leading up. The Tea Party came out very strongly against it. Question 2 has passed by 10%. Rhode Island College will be getting the new Art Center, and the new chemistry building will be going in at CCRI. We apologize moments earlier. We had a few technical difficulties, but we're glad to have you back here. Nick, what do you think as we are now able to call every race in Rhode Island? What do you think the final tone of tonight as far as the Rhode Island goes, and then we'll get into the national level?
Well, certainly it'll be interesting to see how the General Assembly races play out, but with the independent tone of Lincoln Chafee pushing forward and surging forward in the final moments of this election to take the lead, as near 100% are expected to be reporting in the next few minutes. It can be almost said now that with Lincoln Chafee is likely serving as the next governor of Rhode Island, this state could take a dramatically different direction, dramatically different course change. There's been a Republican in the top seat in Rhode Island now for 16 years. Of course, there's been a Democratic-controlled General Assembly the entire time. That will not change. But with an independent on top, we'll see how they work together, at least to start off things. Now, of course, the entire state's congressional delegation will remain Democratic, but that changes Rhode Island's impact in Washington. Because we've had 4 Democrats with both houses of Congress controlled by the Democrats. Now, 2 of those Democrats, it's going to be David Cicilline and, of course, Jim Langevin, will be in the minority in Congress and will not be able to get their agenda, at least as far as Rhode Islanders are concerned, forward and pushed as much.
Yeah, that certainly will be the case. You talked a lot about the assembly races. It looks like the Democratic Party in Rhode Island still did very strong in both the assembly and the state senate and held almost all of their seats. So they still look very strong. Even in more conservative towns like Barrington, the Democrats were able to split the assembly seats and split the senate seats, actually gaining a state senate seat in the area of Barrington. So certainly not necessarily the night expected if you look at a national scale here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Connecticut, where McMahon lost in that Senate race, kind of isolated from the rest of the tone of the nation, still extremely blue, if not more blue than ever. I mean, in Massachusetts, it's almost shocking. At the state or federal level, not one Republican came within 5 points of winning.
This is a mess.
And this is in Massachusetts. In Rhode Island, the numbers are going to be almost as big. If you take out the Chafee race, Cicilline ended up opening up a 7-point lead over Laughlin at the end. So, I mean, really, at the Rhode Island level, if you take out that Chafee, Robitaille, Caprio, Block race where there's just so many names, you're not going to get a big winner. The Democratic Party in the states of Connecticut, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, it looked as strong as ever tonight.
It's a machine.
It really is.
It is.
I mean,
It
it's
is.
almost an unquestioned victory. And then you go even over to New York, is where the line starts to fade. At the statewide level, the Senate and governor candidates both went Democratic. But beyond that, for Congress, it is a dogfight in the state of New York. We're getting numbers from across the state. There is not a single congressional race north of New York City that has been called in New York State, and their polls closed at the same time as ours. Those races are going to go late into the night. New York State is a complete toss-up. That is really where the line turns to the rest of the country. All of New England stayed as blue, if not more blue than ever tonight.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how it ends up when it's all said and done nationally, because you still have Harry Reid. You see what happens with him if Sharon Angle can pull it off, Tea Party candidate. But I mean, it's just so different how New England in the Northeast has an entirely different mentality than the rest of the states. It's incredible.
They really did isolate themselves from the movement on the rest of the country. And the candidates here in New England, the Democratic candidates, held very, very strong. When you look at across the country now, we're now projecting a 40 to 45% majority for the Republicans in the House. That 60-seat swing that the White House talked about that would be considered a disaster looks like it's going to happen in the House, but they are not performing well in the Senate. It's very interesting how this, and I think a lot of it is fueled by the Tea Party that is so local and grassroots that it can have a stronger effect on a congressional race than it can on a statewide race. They get lost in a statewide race. It looks like Nevada, no polling results are in yet, but the exit polls are actually looking better for Harry Reid than a lot of people thought. I think on a statewide and national-wide level, it's just too large for the Tea Party at this point in time. But in a congressional race that's much easier to control, they look like they've done very well.
Right, and the thing is, though, is it wasn't the Republicans were never expected to take over the Senate. I mean, it would have been a huge upset if they did, and there was that possibility. But I mean, it's not much of a shock. I mean, if Sharon, I mean, I think that Sharon Angle has just as good as a chance of winning that Harry Reid does. I mean, despite what the exit polling data has, I mean, they've been neck and neck for so long. It will be really interesting to see how that plays out. And I mean, as far as the whole Tea Party movement, it is a very grassroots. I completely agree with you. It's a very grassroots movement, and it doesn't get the same funding as the Democratic Party has, and it's kind of divides the Republican Party and the Tea Party movement on a national level. But you know, on a local level, it's working for the Tea Party supporters so far.
So since we've been able to call every Rhode Island race, and I'm sure they want us out of here, we're going to call this. So for Cameron Spalding, Nick Lima, Ricky Enos, Michelle's been on the air with us too, and for the whole crew, we want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. It has certainly been an exciting night. Stick on to anchorweb.org throughout the rest of the night for live video, photo, and reports from every campaign headquarters across the state tonight. There are reporters for the Anchor newspaper across the state, so stay tuned to that if you want more information as we go on. As we said, Lincoln Chafee is the next governor. Angel Tavares is the next mayor, and the Democrats win both congressional seats. Pretty much a sweep for the Democrats minus Lincoln Chafee across the state tonight. The other big storyline, of course, even though the Democrats won everywhere else, how poor Caprio did. So for all of us here at Anchor TV, we want to thank all of you for tuning in, and hopefully you will watch us tomorrow. We're going to have coverage of both a very important student government meeting, and we're going to have some coverage of the URI Rick basketball game, and we hope you all tune in for that. Thank you, and have a great night.